Thanks for tuning in to the 16th episode of the MMA Roundtable. Today is January 24th, 2013. Big thanks for everybody tuning in. We got a bunch to go down, actually. We got that UFC on FX fight this past Saturday. I want to talk about those main fights. Huge card, UFC on Fox in Chicago, going down next Saturday. The Bellator Season 8 fights have started kicking off. Might talk about that a little bit. So, yeah, let's do it. And thanks again for tuning in. It is the MMA Roundtable. We have a unique lineup today. Chris is actually going to be out indefinitely. Dave is only out this week. He'll be back next week. So that brings us down to 4. But we actually have on the show Jay, who was an original host of MMA Mental. Thank you for coming on. And yeah, how are you doing over there in the UK? It's the second Brit we've got on the show other than Ray now.
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic, man. There's a lot of snow outside my door, but got to make the most of it.
Awesome. Yeah. Ray, you want to plug MMA Mental and let people know what's coming up on the horizon?
Yeah, absolutely. We recorded a show last night. Unfortunately, due to schedules, Patrick couldn't be with me last night, so I flew solo, which was interesting. It's always interesting doing interviews by yourself because it's always nice to have someone to fall back on. So you've got to be a bit more prepared. But I had 5 guests on last night, so I interviewed 5 people. First up, we had UC MMA fighter Jason Radcliffe, who is fighting soon on Primetime TV in the UK, also going to be streamed live on YouTube. He's also agreed to put our logo on his shorts, which is absolutely fantastic. We're over the moon. It was great chatting with him. He's a young up-and-coming fighter. Then we spoke to Mick, the English Bull Terrier Sinclair. He's not been fighting for a while, but he's looking to get back into it. Then we spoke to his brother, Rob C4 Sinclair, of course, the BAMMA lightweight champion. Then we had an old friend of the show on, Mike Biggie Rhodes. He's trained with Duke Rufus, obviously one of the best camps at the moment. And he's 4-0. He's a young up-and-coming fighter. He's roommates with Eric Koch, so he's already in with the right people. And he's going to start looking at kickboxing, so it was interesting to speak with him. And then we continued our arrangement we've got with Extreme Fighting Championship, and we spoke with Angela Magana, who is fighting soon for XFC. She's making a debut. She's currently 12-5. Yeah, it was a really good show. I've just also lined up for next week. I've got Andre Winner on next week, which will be interesting. Obviously, he was on The Ultimate Fighter Season 9, had a little run in the UFC, and recently fought Rob Sinclair as well for the BAMMA title. Yeah, so all in all, it was good. And also, check out MMA Mental for the latest news.
Definitely, yeah. MMA Mental, y'all are doing some big fucking things. Ramses, you had a recent Word on the Street podcast episode, am I correct?
Yes, we did. Yeah, you can check out anything I put out. Just the easiest thing to do. It's better than a website. Just follow me on Twitter, The Ant Jimmy Show, at The Ant Jimmy Show on Twitter. Latest UFC news, rumors, and all weed-influenced speculation coming to you straight out of Austin, Texas.
What if I want to watch one of these podcasts? You put them up on YouTube?
Yeah, just spark up the J, go to YouTube, in the search box, just type Word on the Street podcast, and you'll see any video I've ever put out. Best way.
I will be doing that for sure. The MMA podcast, we actually had Lenny Hart on for about an hour yesterday. That was a really great interview. We actually found out that Lenny Hart, the announcer who would announce everyone's names, Shogun Horua, with all the crazy calls, she actually came up with Anderson Silva's nickname, the Spider. She just said he looked like a spider and called him that before one fight, and it sort of turned into a big thing. So we thought that was really cool. She also gave a call for the MMA podcast, which I loved, and you'll definitely be able to hear at the beginning of every show. So definitely check us out on Twitter, the MMA Podcast, themapodcast.com. Chris is going to be off the show for a little while, so I'm not sure what we're going to do, if we're going to keep doing it Wednesday nights, but follow us on Twitter, and we will keep you up to date Thanks for tuning in. We do this show, the MMA Roundtable, every Thursday night, 7 to 9 Eastern, 4 to 6 Pacific, 12 to 2 if you're in the UK, AM, like Ray and Jay. Tweet us at the MMA Podcast, MMA Mental. We'll read your tweets on air, and we really appreciate your feedback. Let's get straight into it. UFC on FX was this past Saturday. I think it broke records. It was the most watched event on FX or Fuel. That Belfort Bisping fight really brought in a lot of people. But let's start with Gabriel Gonzaga versus Ben Rothwell. I'm getting a little bit of feedback from someone else on the call. Okay, it just went away. Gabriel Gonzaga versus Ben Rothwell. Gabriel with an impressive victory. What do you guys think is next for the UFC perennial heavyweight Gabriel Gonzaga, Ray?
It's mad because it was a strange fight, I thought, because neither guy for me looked impressive. It was a hard fight to pick going into the fight because I was looking at the fight and thinking which one of the two is going to be the worst, and it was the other one that was going to win. I know it sounds bad to say, and it proved right. I mean, Ben Rothwell, he looked terrible in that fight. I mean, he literally come in with it sticking his chin up and just taking shots, and eventually he got caught by what looked like one of the loosest guillotine chokes I think I've ever seen. But yeah, it wasn't a great fight. What's next for Gonzaga? I don't know, to be honest with you. It's hard to say, and if I'm being honest, I'm not really that fussed. I wasn't excited by his performance. I'm not thinking I can't wait to see him fight next. He's not in the upper tier. He's probably around top 20, I'd say. Maybe I don't know who's coming over from Strikeforce. Maybe feed him to Josh Barnett. Josh Barnett needs an opponent. Maybe that's an idea, but I'm not really that bothered, to be fair, with where he goes next, because I just weren't impressed.
Yeah, Gabriel Gonzaga is making the most boring UFC comeback of all time. They fucking kicked him out a couple years ago. Now he's like he made a run. He's 2 in a row now in the UFC on his comeback. So the next thing in line for him is probably maybe avenge one of his UFC losses. That'd be the best storyline, I guess. Brendan Shaw beat his ass, showed it. JDS and Shane Carwin, Verdum whooped his ass. I think that's I don't know. A bunch of people whooped his ass in the UFC, so he should get a rematch against one of those guys next. He's got enough name power to be on a main card. So yeah, that's my best guess for him. But yeah, it was a boring fucking fight.
I agree. I do not think Gonzaga looked impressive in that fight at all. It was a hard fight to call. Kind of like Ray said, you just got to go with who's worse, because neither of them were really top tier. Neither of them, especially Gonzaga's last performances before he left the UFC, and even since returning, he just hasn't looked impressive, and that's why he got cut in the first place. Where he goes from here, I'd say, how about a Pat Barry? He's got great striking. He's looked like he's improved his submission game. He's got kind of a spotty record himself. So I think those two would match up nicely since they're both coming off of wins at the moment.
Yeah, I kind of have to agree with what you guys have said. I think I'd like to see him in a chin-checking challenge. I mean, he seems to be, as you've said, he's started working his submission game, which makes him a lot more of an interesting fighter. I think he matches up quite well with Mark Hunt, especially given we haven't really seen Mark Hunt taken to the ground. But if I had to pick one fight for him, I'd like to see him fight Congo more than anyone.
Yeah, I was actually about to say the same exact thing. On the show last night, we were talking about it, and Chick Congo came up in the conversation, Travis Brown as well, who I hate really to discredit too much for that loss to Antonio Silva, as even though he did lose the fight, it wasn't really for any other reason than a freak ACL tear that rendered him unable to continue. Keeping on going down the match and talking about who's next for both fighters. CB Dalloway defeating Daniel Sarafian by a decision that the crowd wasn't very happy with, but I actually agreed with. Chris and I actually disagreed on it last night. He thought Sarafian won, and I thought Dalloway won. And really what I think it came down to was what you're supposed to judge on isn't just striking, but effective striking. And I felt like even though Sarafian was aiming for the fences with all those, really big punches, he would maybe land one for every 11 or 12 he threw. He was wasting a lot of energy in those punches. And for that reason was kind of able to get get taken down and get dominated by CB Dollaway, who cruised to a victory. So what did you guys think of that fight? Do you think Daniel Sarafian has a future in the UFC's middleweight division? And who do you guys think is next for Mr. CB Dollaway?
Yeah, this fight was actually pretty good for a CB Dollaway fight. I was impressed. I was very impressed because I didn't expect anything out of fucking CB Dollaway after he had to go the distance with Mayhem in that fight. And Mayhem blew his knee out during that fight, and it still went the distance. Ever since then, I've just Dollaway, man. He's not gonna do it for me. But it was an impressive and fun fight to watch. A lot better than that fucking Gonzaga piece of crap they were trying to sell us. As far as Sarafian, like I said, hell of a performance. I think it was his UFC debut, right? So goddamn, man, fight of the night for your debut. That's a good sign. So I'll say, yeah, he's probably got a good shot here. Even though he fucking lost, it was a split decision, close one. So let's see what happens. But yeah, he seems legit. I'll give it to him. Word.
For Sarafian, he's very short for 185. He's a real stocky guy. He's your Husamar Palhares, Hector Lombard type build, about 5'8", 185. He's got a good skill set. He's got good jits, good striking. He's got some power. It looks like he damn near put CB out. He hit him with some hard shots in that fight. I don't know if I agree with that decision. It was a close one. But I think he's got a future in the UFC. You know, if he could, I mean, heck, he's even kind of short for 170 with that 5'8" frame. But I do think he's got chops though, and I think that's really what's important, what it boils down to more than anything. He got beat by a guy who was exceptionally larger than him. That's really going to be his toughest battle in a lot of these fights. As for CB, where he goes from here, I mean, heck, he's 7-4 now in the UFC, I believe. He's another off and on kind of guy. Mixes up his wins and losses. He's real streaky. Kind of questionable chin as well. I'd like to see him go up against maybe a Brad Tavares. Tavares, he's coming up. He's a nice name. He's got a little bit of momentum behind him. So I'd like to see them go at it. I think that'd be an interesting match stylistically, and a good test for CB, an appropriate test.
Yeah, I have to agree with what you guys have been saying. Safarian's been good recently. It's nice to see him win on his debut as well. I think a good test for him would be a guy like Ed Herman. I mean, he's just coming off that Strikeforce loss. It'd be a good test for both Ed Herman and himself to see where they both fit in the division now. I think he's got some skills. I don't know whether a drop to welterweight would really suit him, given the number of wrestlers who are able to, survive in the guard. But as for CB, it's an interesting call. As you said, he's so inconsistent. I'd like to personally see him against Palhares and see how good. I mean, his chin clearly isn't there because he lost 2? Was it 2 by KO? Whatever. I think I'd like to see where his jiu-jitsu's at this current stage, especially against the guy who's going to go for leg locks and stuff. But yeah, as for Safarian, I need to get that right, man. That's rubbish. I'd like to see where he's at. I think he is legit, though.
Oh, it's a strange one because it was obviously a good fight, but I think what a lot of people have got to remember going into this fight, there was a lot of hype on Daniel Sarafian because of how effective he was on Tough Brazil. I mean, he was a favourite to win the show, and the only reason he didn't win possibly was because he had to pull out through injury. So even though it's his UFC debut, it's like his unofficial debut just because we've seen him fight before. And I just think there was a lot of weight put on how good Tough Brazil was. And I think the fact he's come out and lost to a middle-of-the-road guy, which CB Dollaway is, we've seen CB Dollaway do well, and we've seen him do not so well. I just don't think it holds him up in good stead. I don't think he's not going to be the beast we thought he was going to be. I think he got tired in that fight. He was in front of his home fans, and it was a good fight. But I don't think it was a good fight for him, if that makes sense. So I don't expect we'll see too much from him. Regarding CB Dollaway, where he goes next, I don't know. It was I don't know if he was expected to win that fight. I got a feeling he was being fed to Daniel Sarafian, and obviously it didn't work out like that. So I'd be interested to see what they decide to do with it next. I'm not sure.
Yeah, Ray, you make a very, very good point. This Tough Brazil cast was hailed to be one of the greatest casts ever. You had guys like Ronnie Jason, who actually is 2-0 in the UFC since the season, knocking out Sam Sicilia a few months ago. But another one of these hailed guys from the season was Daniel Sarafian, and he just, like you said, just did not perform against the guy who was just in the middle of the road. I'm sort of talking about Tough Brazil. You had one of the coaches of Tough Brazil, Vitor Belfort, on the main card of the fight against Ray, your boy, the Brit Michael Bisping. It was a good fight. I've got to say that at least. But in the second round, I believe it was the second round, Vitor Belfort hitting Michael Bisping flush with a kick, rocking him, making him fall over, pounces on Bisping with a flurry of punches, and the fight is called via TKO. What do you think is next for either guy? The way I sort of see it, Belfort is now up there with the top of the middleweight division. It's probably Belfort, Rockhold, and Weidman now, the three guys who really have a legitimate argument that they should be fighting for the title. Personally, I want to see Vitor Belfort take on Luke Rockhold. They've been talking a little bit, Rockhold saying that he wants Belfort as a warm-up fight, so that could be good. As far as Bisping, I'm pretty sure just a couple of months ago he was saying a lot of crap about Alan Belcher, Tim Boach, that they didn't deserve to be on the main card, and I think he tweeted to him, "Back to the prelims, boys," after they lost. I'm sure either of those guys would want to get a shot at him. Maybe Mark Munoz, who's coming back from that loss against Chris Weidman. Lots of viable fights for both of these guys. What do you guys think about the futures of Vitor Belfort and Michael Bisping?
I think Vitor Belfort, his future is looking bright. And realistically, so is Bisping. I mean, both of these guys, I don't think either of them will ever be champions so long as Anderson Silva is still fighting at 105 pounds, or 185 pounds. I think everybody would pretty much concede that. But these two guys, Belfort and Bisping, they're consistently top five, easily top five in the division year after year. Bisping, he just can't seem to make it over that hump when he gets to those title elimination fights. But he's always going to be one of the top fighters because he is consistent, if nothing else. He's got a great skill set. Jake, you mentioned some really good fights in there. Belcher, Weidman, I'm losing my train of thought. Belcher and Boach, those would both be good fights. Those would be really good tests for both guys. And as for Vitor Belfort, he was calling out Chael after the fights. I thought that was very interesting. Chael's got his fight booked with John Jones, obviously, some ways down the road, so I don't know what that's all about. Obviously, he's just trying to get a big money fight, I think. But realistically, what's next for him? Heck, I do like the Luke Rockhold fight. I know that there's been a lot of talk about that. I think that's a good move to make. It gives either fighter lots of credit if they win that fight. Good test. I'd say mostly good test for Rockhold. There's definitely lots of options.
I think trying to predict Belfort's next opponent is ridiculous because, he's got that loss to Anderson Silva, and now he's got the loss to John Jones as well. So trying to, of course he is top tier of whichever division he wants to fight in, he's going to end up in the top tier a bit. But really try and rematch him up with the champion, it's just, it would be insane considering the way he lost to both of them. But he is interesting, and I think there's a lot of guys who are thinking about fighting Anderson Silva, a lot of 205 guys. Shogun was saying it a few years back. Rashad said the other day that he'd beat Anderson Silva. If anybody wants a warm-up fight of 195, I'm sure Belfort would happily agree that fight. And it'd be interesting to see, especially Rashad versus Vitor at 195. I'd like to see that. I think it might sell. But as for Bisping, again, like you guys have said, he is a top 5 guy, and he has been talking a lot of rubbish. And yeah, there's a lot of great potential fights out there. A fight you haven't mentioned is the Lombard fight, which is but I know that Akami's fighting Lombard next, so that's kind of out the question. But another fighter who's not scheduled to fight anyone is Kung Lee. And he's coming off that big knockout of Rich Franklin. I think that'd be a nice fight. I do. I'd like that fight.
I just want to say that the Rashad Evans saying he could beat Anderson Silva, I was on that call. I heard that from the horse's mouth, as they say. And also, interestingly enough, he did talk about on that same conference call about fighting at 195. And I do like the call of Rashad Evans and Vitor Belfort at 195. For me, Vitor Belfort deserves to fight the top people. I was obviously absolutely gutted to Bisping lose, but Balfour looked awesome in that fight, and his head kicking is not something we've normally seen. We know he's fast with his hands, but he doesn't throw a lot of kicks normally. But he was just on another level. I mean, and he just completely outclassed Bisping. I thought Bisping was classy afterwards. What he had to say about the loss, none of this BS where my wife's leaving me. It was straightforward. I felt good going to the fight, and he gave Balfour all the credit rather than trying to steal the limelight, which of course we've seen lately with JDS. So I like that. Yeah, I like the idea of Balfour versus Evans at 195. But I think whoever Balfour gets, he's going to get a super fight anyway. I think I've read somewhere that it is going to be Rockhold next. I think it is going to be Rockhold and Balfour, which would be a good fight as well. Rockhold's he's such a strong grappler as well, which could cause problems for Balfour. With regards to Bisping, I don't know where he goes from here really. I think we need to accept now, and maybe say we, I mean us in the UK, that Bisping's never ever going to fight for a title. He's one of those enigmas. He is definitely one of the best guys in the world at his weight class. He's obviously the number one guy in the UK, but he just can't get to that top end. He's probably top 5, but he's never going to be top 3 or top 1. But again, he's going to work his way up. He's always going to be in and around. He's going to be a good gatekeeper. I mean, possible fights in the future. There's loads of potential people out there, obviously, because he's one of these guys that people love to hate. But I mean, him versus Sonnen in their first fight was extremely close. Some people found out it was a wrong decision. I wouldn't mind seeing them two go for 5 rounds. Let's see if Sonnen can hold him on his back for 5 rounds. I don't think he can. So that's the fight I'd like to see.
Oh, man. First off, I don't believe that Vitor Armstrong won until I see the fucking medical results. Those still haven't come back yet. All right? It's 50-50 this fucking defeat gets overturned. Vitor was juiced to the fucking gills. All right? It was loose. It was pretty fucking obvious. It was a good performance. But, I mean, I'm just saying, man, we gotta... Let's quit pretending here. But Bisping, man, oh, what a fucking loss, man. You weren't supposed to lose to this fucking guy. I can't believe it. He got caught with the fucking Jesus Juice Christ kick from straight out of Brazil, man. Fucking Bisping, Mike, what are you doing, man? What's next for Mike Bisping? He needs a fucking tune-up fight. The UFC has to set him up with something nice, some kind of bum like maybe Rich Franklin. Or maybe the UFC should just go ahead and sign that boxing guy, the Tyson Fury, and then have Bisping take him on. Bisping needs a confidence-boosting fight next, or else you won't ever see his name in the top 5 ever again. And Vitor, yeah, you guys are hearing right. Dana White did say today that they're gonna try to put together Vitor Armstrong versus Luke Rockhold. So hopefully that happens, and Luke gets this fucking clown out. Fuck you, Vitor Armstrong. Word on the street.
Hot takes coming in from Houston, Texas. Word on the street. Austin, Ramsey.
Texas.
Oh my God, Austin, Texas. I'm sorry. One thing I'm sure you were tuned into last night was that Tough 17 premiere. It was a really interesting premiere. They had a different style of filming. We're going to go around the roundtable a few times on this Tough premiere. But, a new documentary style to filming it. A lot of criers. A lot of people cried. But first and foremost, what was your favorite match of the premiere? A lot of good ones. You had that Jackson guy, Bubba McDaniel, getting a TKO. You had Uriah Hall looking like a monster, getting a decision win. Who else? You had Clint Hester, a bunch of guys. What was your favorite match of the Tough premiere, or did you even watch it?
I mean, for me, it was interesting the way they shot it, because you didn't see much of many fights. So it's kind of hard to say which fight is your favourite. But because it would be a lot easier had they shown every fight. But some fights, even they felt like they lasted about 21 seconds, but they went on for 10 minutes. Some of them, they seemed like they only went on for about 10 seconds, but they kept showing it for like 2 minutes. As for my favourite fight, it's hard to say. I guess that Jake Kuhn guy, the Chris Lieben guy who's submitted by Adam Seller, that was a nice fight. I think that was the first fight they showed. The other fight that really captured my attention, though, was Josh Sanan, the guy who's double-fisting Leo Bursa. I think he was trying to copy Thiago Silva, but didn't quite have the same effect.
He wasn't copying Thiago Silva, he was copying Kazushi Sakuraba. That's the guy who originally did the old double fist. Let's not give all the credit to Thiago Silva. We know you love him, but let's not give all the credit to Thiago Silva. I obviously watched the show, I enjoyed it. I'm one of these that'd rather see more fights than documentary. And but then saying that, he did kind of get a connection to the guys, and you wanted them to do well. Favourite moments, I think Uriah Hall stood out. He looked like an absolute beast. One of the moments that shocked me was you look at the names that you knew, and I'd heard of Nick Vecchetti. So to see him get knocked out in like 10 seconds or something against Zach Cummings, that was a bit of a surprise. But I think the moment that stood out to me was me being a Brit was Luke Barnett. I mean, he looked pretty good. He won his fight, and then see him get picked number one was just awesome. I mean, he's obviously fighting next week as well. I like the fact that they're going to show you. I've never understood why they don't let you know who's fighting next week, so it builds up the tension. They did it with Roy Nelson and Kimbo Slice, but they don't normally do it. But because they've got this fancy thing on the site, it looks like they're going to do that this year, and I like that. Because I'm already excited to see Luke Barnett fight next week and hopefully get a win and move into the last 8, the last 8 obviously with the extra round they're going to do. So yeah, I like that idea, but yeah, I'll be rooting for Luke Barnett this year.
Favorite match of the Tough Premiere? It's a little tough here. Oh shit. Even though they didn't really show us matches, what we were shown was basically highlight reels, right? So my favorite, most impressive highlight reel had to go to Uriah Hall. Big black dude, very impressive striker, clean hits. His highlights, I gotta say, looked like they were the most powerful and devastating. Even though his fight went to a decision, that just goes to show you how impressive it was. It was a decision, which I usually hate, but I didn't give a damn this time. Uriah Hall looked damn good, and I don't see him getting beat anytime soon, man. I'd be afraid to fight that guy if I was in that house.
Word on the streets. Yeah, Uriah Hall looked good. For me, I think I'm with Ray in the Zach Cummings over Nick Vecchetti knockout. That just looked good. Although, Ramses, I agree to your point that Uriah Hall looked good, and you know, decision fights, you get to learn a little bit more about the fighter. You get to see their ebb and flow. You get to see a little bit more about just, you know, what they're all about. So definitely looks like we got some solid prospects this year, and definitely like it. But yeah, Cummings over Vecchetti, that's got to be my favorite little highlight.
Yeah, that one was pretty good. The Zach Cummings fight was the other one I couldn't come up with on the top of my head. But we touched on it a little bit, but it was filmed much differently. It was more like a documentary than a reality show. I was a huge fan of it, and what I really like, what I was expecting is them to play up to the Jones-Sonnen rivalry and show lots and lots of Sonnen, you know, trying to troll Jones and Jones being trolled, and I was expecting a lot more focus on the coaches, but what I like is that it seems like the UFC is trying, almost like they use Sonnen and Jones to bring in the fans, but then during the shows they're only focusing on the fighters because they're trying to get these fans for the long term to tune in for later seasons. So I like that, but it's definitely less of a reality show with cameramen walking all over the house and trying to catch weird moments, but it's more of a documentary where people sit down and are interviewed and things happen a lot more structured, and I liked it a lot. What did you guys think of the new documentary style they're doing? Jay, you touched on it earlier, but
yeah, I mean, to me, it's different. It's not what I expected, and like I said, I did want to see all the fights, but I guess that's what I guess that's why you want to buy the DVD. I mean, when you buy the end of the TUF box set or whatever, you get all the fights. So I guess that's kind of what they're doing. But yeah, it's a bit interesting. I do like that they're building up a bit of a rapport with the fans and, you know, showing their family. I mean, it is gutting, though, when you see a guy get knocked out and his family's watching. It must be so hard. Not only do you have someone to comfort you, but they all watch you get knocked out. It's like, oh, man. So it was interesting. I can't say I love it, but I probably will get used to the idea because I just love TUF.
Just to touch there on what Jay said, I think the worst bit was when you had that bloody guy who was a single dad and he lost in front of his two young kids, his two boys. That was pretty hard to swallow. And I've got no other option but to win in all of this. But I mean, I'm one of these that loves every season that's ever done. I've always enjoyed. Even when people say it was a bad season, I always enjoy it. I mean, I enjoyed the last season, which Carlton Smith won, and obviously people weren't overly sold on that season, but I liked it for what it was. I like some of the things I've done differently. I like the fact that we're going to know the fighter a week in advance, or who's fighting a week in advance. I think that builds up hype for the fight, so people might tune in to see that fight, which encourage people. If I'm being honest, I think my favourite format that I've seen since it started, out of all the ones I've done, the different formats I've done, my best one so far was Tough Live. I love that format. I like the show because the guys are on it as well, but I just like that format of a live fight every week, not knowing what's going to happen. There could be no rumours out there, and I thought that for me was the best one yet, and I'd love them to go back to that format.
Yeah, the Tough Live was cool, except damn, those guys went through so much shit, man. Michael Chiesa, by that last fight, he was walking into the octagon on crutches, man. It was bad. But yeah, it was fun. That was actually great, man. It was intense to watch. I watched that one. But yeah, as far as Tough 17, Sonnen versus Johnny Bones, I definitely love the new style, dude. It doesn't look like it was filmed in Wayne's basement anymore. It's they're using a different cameras, different frame rates, even for the fights, which was really interesting. And of course, they got the slow motion highlights, you know, sponsored by this and that, which was lame. But you know, you had to cram 14 fights into an hour and 20 minutes. So you know, but with the new style, they were able to pull that off, make it entertaining. You saw enough of the fights. I mean, of course, we'd all love for the full fights to come out someday. But no, so far so good. Let's see what an hour show looks like next week.
Yeah, good
Patrick,
call. It'll be interesting to see how the hour format works out. Hopefully we'll get more of that fight like everybody's wanting. Of course, that's why we all tune into the Ultimate Fighter every week is to see that fight at the end of the show. I don't foresee that changing, but I do like the new direction that the style has gone in. It's good. It looks a lot better. It's more compelling. It reminds me kind of the countdown to UFC events where you get to see the trainers, you get to see the fighters, you get that personal perspective. It makes for more compelling television. You form that bond, and thus you want to watch because they've created that emotional attachment, and it worked well because I tell you what, the last couple seasons have kind of bored me. I like the Tough Live format, but as far as fighters and the fights and excitement, the bantamweight and featherweight season, I think that's been my favorite over the past few. But I found myself very interested in this season, so I think they're definitely doing something right. And the early ratings that they're coming back with are looking like the fans agree.
Yeah, I really agree with you. One thing Chris and I didn't really agree with yesterday. Do you think Jones and Sonnen are going to start getting ugly with each other at any point in the season? I'm expecting by week 3 or 4 there's some bad blood flowing. But Chris said he thought that they were going to keep it amicable the entire season. What do you guys think is going to go down between the two coaches?
I think right now it's a bit interesting. I mean, Sonnen came in the training centre and was acting like a normal human being, and you know, John Jones thought he was going to play the cool role, like he's too cool to be talking to this dude. It's a bit interesting right now, but I think things will escalate. Right now, I'm naturally never going to side with John Jones, but right now I am siding with Chael Sonnen. I'm liking his attitude and things. But I don't know when it's going to get interesting. It's what interested me most about the highlights. I mean, they showed some clips and everything, but John Jones at one stage was just like, when are we going to win, or something like that. And I was just like, well, that's kind of saying something. So maybe he gets a bit angry that he can't seem to pick up a win.
I think he was saying, I want to win, from what I can gather. But I love the start with them two. I think Chael Sonnen come in, making out like their best mates. And I don't think John Jones knew what to do. He didn't know how to react to Chael Sonnen. And obviously Sonnen knows how to portray a character. I'm sure we're gonna hear more on this from Ramses. But Sonnen knows how to portray a character. He knows how to what to do at that time. And yeah, I thought he was brilliant. There's no way they're going to go through this whole season and not get on each other's nerves. Sonnen is the best at winding people up, and Jones will react. He's got to. If he doesn't react, he's not human. I mean, there's only so much piss taking you can take from someone. So yeah, it's definitely going to get heated. We might even see a few doors get smashed. That tends to be a theme on Tough. So there's definitely going to be a heated moment somewhere along the lines.
Look, guys, I don't know if you guys know this. I've never told anybody this, but I happen to be a huge Chael Sonnen fan, and I got the word on the street. I got the word on the street about Tough, and I can guarantee you there's going to be more than a few trolls going down by the end of the season. I can guarantee you, and I can also tell you, even though I can't go into specifics, I know there's going to be a troll because I might have helped with a little troll attempt setup. Just to help the boys up in their Team Sun and Team Darkside. Shout out. If that makes the final cut, I'll definitely let you guys in on it. But yeah, there are definitely going to be trolls. I know firsthand. Word on the street.
Well, if that's the word on the streets, far be it for me to go against that. I mean, how can there not be more heated talking? The only question in my mind is, how will Jones react? I think he'll keep a fairly level head. Although I don't know, I sure would love to see him explode and show some sort of emotion. But yeah, I mean, Sonnen, he was getting him in the premiere episode on Tuesday. It was fantastic. Just subtle ribbings, and it was good. I loved it, and I'm sure it's just going to amp up as the season continues.
Yeah, and speaking of the Team Darkside coach Chael Sonnen, which Ramsey, I'm kind of surprised you were a fan of his. I didn't really think you were
long time
big.
actually.
Wow. I didn't really think you were big about Sonnen, but Mike Dulce coming in saying that Sonnen weighs 240 pounds. He's going to be stronger than John Jones. Will he be stronger? I don't know. Jones is known as one of the strongest light heavyweights in the bigs, or yeah, probably in the heavyweight and light heavyweight division. The way he sort of picks people up and tosses them around, almost like Daniel Cormier, makes him look like a little insect. Will Chael be stronger? I don't know. We had Chris on last night on the MMA podcast talking mass craziness, saying that there's 0% chance Chael's stronger, 0% chance Chael when we fire Ramsey up enough to call in. But yeah, do you all think that Chael Sonnen's going to be stronger than John Jones on the night of the fight?
I don't think he's going to be stronger, personally. I mean, I love Chael Sonnen. I don't love him as much as Ramses, but I do love Chael Sonnen. I think if Sonnen can get close to Jones and can take him down, which Sonnen is obviously capable of doing, then he is definitely a threat to anybody. But I just feel that Jones has got more weapons, and even with his strength, it might not even be the biggest thing. Not when you've got Jones's athleticism and his striking. So yeah, I don't see that myself personally. I think that's just Dulce playing a little bit of devil's advocate.
Look, Mike the Diet Dolce, I didn't like him. I had a grudge against Mikey because in my opinion, he drained the champ too much before that UFC 148 rematch against Anderson Silva. I blamed Mike the Diet Dolce for Chael being so fucking dehydrated for the longest time. But now I've reconciled that. I believe in Mike Dolce, all right? Sonnen, he doesn't weigh 240. Maybe he did at one point. I don't know. He had a vacation just now. But today, he said he was at 228. 228 today. Him and Jones, they look like they weigh about the same. Saw a bunch of pictures of them side by side. So will Chael be stronger than John Jones? Of course, because he has to be. All right, he's going to come at him with his entire life. You know, John Jones is going to be defending his title. Chael Sonnen's going to be coming there to take it. He's going to take it to him. He has to be stronger in his head and in his body, and I think he'll get there. Let's see how those fucking chicken legs hold up against Sonnen fucking steamrolling, man. Let's see what the double leg does to those fucking long ass legs. I predict Chael by submission right here and right now. But yeah, he'll be stronger. He'll keep Jones down. He'll keep Jones down and get it done. That's not the word on the street. That's the fact that just hasn't happened yet. Thank you.
Well, damn. You know, if Chael is going to be stronger than John Jones, I think that comes down to what his testosterone to epitestosterone ratio is going to be coming into that fight. Is it going to be 6-1? Is it going to be 4-1? You know, Ramsey does bring up a good point with just the difference in body types. Chael, he's like 6'2". He's compared to Jones, he's more compact. Jones, he's got the long limbs. So it really depends. Jones has the leverage advantage. Whether or not he can exercise that leverage, that's going to be the issue. Because he does have those smaller legs. Chael can wrap that double leg, and he does have the fantastic double leg. But for me, this is just like his fight with Anderson Silva. Even though I saw what he did for those 4 rounds and what he started to do for that entire first round in their rematch, I still had to pick Anderson Silva just because he hasn't lost in the UFC. I don't consider Jones having lost in the UFC. He's only destroyed everybody he's fought. So I have to go with John Jones in the strength department or really any department until proven otherwise.
I mean, from what we saw on The Ultimate Fighter, all I really have to say is I don't know how much he weighs or anything like that, but when he walked in that room, he was a big fucking dude. He looked like a tank. You know, I mean, when he even stood next to John Jones, his shoulders, his arms, they were just so much bigger. I mean, the Dulce diet has definitely been working for him. I mean, he was massive. Like I said, if he's 228, whatever, he was definitely bigger. It's going to be interesting, as you guys said. I don't think John Jones is perhaps the strongest lightweight out there, light heavyweight. I'm not sure who really is. I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really think of any, but I'm sure if I start trying to think, maybe someone like Phil Davis. But technically, his technical wrestling ability really does help me. He is practically flawless in terms of wrestling, which is why he's able to do these crazy throws to Stephen Bonner, who just don't see it coming. And I think that's also something that's you've got to note, is that Chael Sonnen's going to run across the cage and try and grab him. And all the tools that Jones has got, yeah, he's the better striker and everything, it's all going to come down to, if he wants to throw that leg kick, Sonnen's going to try and grab that kick and going to try and drive him down. And if he is that big, if he is 240 or whatever, then yeah, maybe dehydration's going to come into play. But I've got to agree with word on the street here. He might have the strength advantage, or it might be neutral. But I still will be picking Jones because I think he's more used to that weight. But then Chael Sonnen's only ever been a champion at light heavyweight. He's never been a champion at middleweight for any promotion at all. So maybe this is Sonnen's chance to finally get a hand on the gold, and maybe for the first time ever we will hear that post-fight victory speech that he's probably had planned for ages now. And let me tell you this, it will be fantastic if he does get to read it out.
Damn, that was a that was a very interesting takedown. I hadn't thought of a lot of those points. We have some fight announcements we wanted to go over, but first, you guys ready for the Bonehead of the Week?
Let's do it.
Sure.
I'm ready.
Am I kicking it off? Who's kicking off?
Alright, my Bonehead of the Week this week, it's Rampage Jackson. Dude's just... I don't know why he's got such a vendetta against the UFC. It actually came out today that he's made $15 million since 2007 with the UFC, which is a pretty good deal, thinking that he's maybe only fought, 7 or 8 times, if that, in that 6-year stretch. I'd say it's probably less. He left for a while to go do movies. Rampage Jackson just been giving the UFC a lot of flack. At today's press conference, he was playing a PSP the entire time, showing no one any respect. Yeah, just Paige, stop being a clown. You're my bonehead this week. Jay, you're up.
All right, there's plenty of boneheads out there this week. I was trying to look at it and I was trying to pick one. But to me, it's got to be Mike Diamond. I mean, he fought on the prelims at Bellator. And basically, if you didn't see that fight, I thought he took the first round, came out in the second round. Can't remember his opponent's name. That's really bad of me, but I can't remember his opponent's name. Basically, he's running forward with his chin in the air, trying to land, I think it was a jab. Was it Savant Young? Yeah, Savant Young. He's trying to land this jab. And Savant Young started, getting his reach. He landed a big bomb on him. And Mike Diamond was like, oh, that kind of hurt. And then he still kept walking forward with the chin in the air. And in the end, he did it about 3 or 4 times. And finally, Savant Young had enough and just landed a huge punch and it sent him miles down. The height difference also made a big factor because he fell even further down. Just, what sort of guy does the same thing 4 times? I mean, he had it coming for a mile. Yeah, that's my bonehead.
My bonehead of the week is Rick Hahn's sponsor for trying to cancel his check after Rick Hahn lost his Bellator championship fight against Michael Chandler. I mean, it's a thing called breach of contract. It's pretty much textbook. I was thinking, how in the world can this guy go and do this? He was saying that Rick Hahn, having lost in the way that he did, looked bad on his business. And that is just the dumbest thing I ever heard. I mean, it's so hard to predict the fight game. I actually predicted Rick Hahn to win that fight. I mean, he trains at TriStar Gym. He's a former Olympian. He has good judo. He was very successful at 170 pounds. He's got good boxing. I like the guy. I like him as a mixed martial artist. And what looks bad on you as a business owner is breaking your word, not paying people who you say you're going to pay. And shit like that. So, of course, the next day he comes out and he's going to pay Rick Hahn. So it's all well and good, but the damned is done to your reputation. And I'm hoping to add to it a little more by nominating you for Bonehead of the Week.
My Bonehead of the Week is also nominated for Best Actor, and that's Pedro Nobre. I mean, talk about pathetic. He lies on the floor and rolls around like a little girl. The shots that were landed were not illegal. There was no marks on him afterwards when he was checked out by doctors. There was no cuts, and he couldn't continue to fight. He obviously knew he was going to lose that fight, and he obviously thought by pulling out he'd be able to get another rematch. Well, luckily this week, justice has happened, and he's been cut from the UFC. But I just thought his whole performance was absolutely pathetic. I mean, if you're going to go and fight, fight. If you're not going to go and fight, go and do something else.
My bonehead is Frank Shamrock. He called out Dana White for some reason the other day here. Supposedly he said the only fight he would ever come back for is if it was against Dana White. So I tweeted that to Dana White. He proceeded to laugh his ass off and bash fucking Frank Shamfuck for a good while, actually. It was kind of weird at some point. But yeah, Frank Shamrock, man, you're a joke. You are a bonehead. Hey, Frank, yeah, you remember the time Nick Diaz knocked you out? Remember the time Kung Lee broke your fucking arm? Remember when you got disqualified because you need Renzo Gracie? You remember the time Dana White fired your ass? How about the time you found another job and then Dana White bought that company and then he fired your ass again, Frank Shamfuck? What was that like? Fuck you, Frank Shamfuck. Go live in the YMCA with your brother Ken. Fuck you. Word on the street.
Wow, Ray, I'm sorry. I was gonna pick Pedro Nobre, but God, after hearing that speech, I can't not go with Frank Shamrock. Ramses was the prosecuting lawyer there, and if I'm the judge, I'm putting Frank Shamrock away for life. That was a excellent breakdown. Frank Shamrock, my bonehead.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I've got to say that Pedro Nobre is probably my choice, but Frank Shamrock's definitely got a case. But no, my vote does go to Pedro Nobre. I'm glad he got fired. That was pathetic. That was a proper. You can't roll around. You're just taking a few punches to the face, and all of a sudden, the punch to the back of the head is the one that absolutely kills you. That was awful. That was appalling. That takes my vote.
Yeah, I'll go with Pedro Nobre as well. That is just atrocious. I mean, the referee for even I mean, I would have waved it off as a TKO. I wouldn't have given it a no contest. I mean, that was a legit TKO as far as I'm concerned. But, yeah, Pedro Nobre, bonehead of the week.
My vote goes to a story that really, really angered me, which was the whole bullshit with Rick Horn's sponsors not paying him. I mean, that guy puts himself out there and fights. And yeah, he lost the fight, but he went out there and he fought his heart out. And he was just beaten by the better fighter on the night. And Michael Chandler's an absolute beast anyway. I mean, the guy's probably top 3, top 5 of the lightweight division, which is unusual when you're not in the UFC, but that's how good he is. And then they come out and say, we're not going to pay him because of the way he fought. Absolute disgrace. They should name and shame this company, and they should not be allowed to sponsor anyone again in future. Absolutely awful. But yeah, I'd vote for Rick Horn's sponsor.
Hard to top Frank, but I think Pedro Nobre actually did as the bonehead of the fucking week. The donkey punch from hell that crippled him. I mean, what the fuck was that, man? And then he shows up. He actually went the distance on that, man. He got a neck brace and he was wearing it around for days after the fight. Oh my god. So yeah, good thing we'll never see his ass in the octagon again. That was bullshit. That was the worst acting I've ever seen, actually. I mean, they tried to give him best actor. It was the worst actor. If he was playing dead, the bear wouldn't buy that shit. A bear wouldn't. Just keep eating his fucking ass. Pedro Nobre, bonehead.
So it looks like Pedro Nobre is our bonehead of the week. Definitely tune in next week and see who we pick as our bonehead. Then let's talk about a few fight announcements, then pass it over to Ray for Guess That Tweet. A guy Ramses had somehow never heard of before just a little while ago, Gegard Mousasi, cleaning up at the Strikeforce finale, now officially in the UFC, and he's getting thrown in the light heavyweight title mix immediately because he's going to take on Alex Gustafsson at UFC on Fuel 9, April 6th in Stockholm. What are your early thoughts on the fight? You have this real smooth, suave kickboxer in Gegard against the Dominic Cruz type, more footwork, boxing inspired fighter in Alexander Gustafsson. Who have you got early? I have Gustafsson just because he's looked so impressive. We really haven't seen Gegard take on an elite guy, but if Gegard is really able to beat Alexander Gustafsson, then he'll finally, for one time in his career, be toward the top of the heap in a major MMA promotion. He's been in so many promotions. This is somehow his debut fight in the UFC, and I'm really, really excited to see Gegard do some work in the light heavyweight division.
Yeah, you're right. I've never heard of the fucking Mousasi guy up until this last Strikeforce fight. I was impressed. He had some good shit there. Good fight. But as far as him being in the UFC, he's got a couple things working against him. One of them is if it's his fucking debut, you're not going to know how he's going to react to that now that he's in the big leagues. I'm not sure. Even though he looked impressive, like I said, I don't know much about fucking Mousasi. He might not be UFC caliber to me. I haven't seen it yet, of course. So we're going to find out because he definitely has a tough first opponent. Gustafsson is my pick. I'll just keep it real short. He's on a streak looking too fucking dominant against whoever they're putting in front of him. I don't see him losing anytime soon. I'll go with Gustafsson.
I got a Gustafsson as well. He's my dude. I've been rooting for him for a long time now. He's been coming along real nice. I like that they're giving him just tough tests. He's not getting that championship fight yet. They don't want to kill this prospect, which is smart. And I do think he has what it takes to defeat Gegard Mousasi. Mousasi's a real good fighter. He's a well-rounded opponent. He's beat some good names, too, and I think he can have some success in the UFC, probably more still at 185. But, who knows? Let's see how he fares against Gustafsson. I think he's just going to get annihilated, though. Gustafsson, he's so much bigger. He's going to have a huge reach advantage, and as good as Mousasi is, I think Gustafsson's, he's going to take it to him, probably a unanimous decision. Although, actually, now that I think about it, being a main event, this will be a 5-rounder. Heck, I wouldn't be surprised if Gustafsson got the finish.
It's a really tough fight for me to call. I mean, it really is reach versus experience. Mousasi's fought a lot of great strikers. He's a kickboxer himself. He probably will know how to handle a reach. But Gustafsson really is on a roll. He's fought a lot better fighters. My instinct was Gustafsson by you, Diva, as you said, this is a 3-round fight. I actually see Gustafsson being smart in this fight, and he's probably, he might even go for the takedown and try and work the submission to prove he's got more to his game. So I think that's my pick. But if it is on the feet, I think it'll be really close, and I think Gustafsson will have some problems that he hasn't really faced before. I don't think he's fought a striker this hungry. I mean, Shogun's a veteran, but he hasn't really recently. He's kind of lost his edge a little bit. I reckon it'll be a nice fight, especially if it stays on the feet. But as of right now, I'm going with Gustafsson, probably with the submission finish.
It is definitely on paper a great fight. And the only time, if I remember rightly, the only time Mousasi's ever lost is when he's faced a wrestler, and he lost to King Mo. But other than that, he's always done quite well, and he's always looked good winning as well. But obviously, like we've all said, Gustafsson is on a hell of a run. He looked pretty good against Shogun. He looked good against Thiago Silva in Sweden, which of course me and Jay went to live. He is definitely a very, very good fighter. For me, it's Gustafsson's time now. They're putting him back in Sweden again, in front of his home crowd where everyone's going to be rooting for him. A bit like with Balfour at the weekend just gone. This is Gustafsson's fight to lose, really, and it's just he's getting closer and closer and closer to the fight of Jones and Gustafsson, which we are going to see eventually. But yeah, I think he'll win. I don't think he'll go to the ground. I think he'll keep it standing because I think he'll have the advantage on the feet. I think he'll be comfortable standing. If he can go with Shogun for 3 rounds, he'll be happy going with Mousasi. With it being 5 rounds, I'm wondering if he'll get a late stoppage. I think Gustafsson unanimous decision is probably the safe pick, but I'm definitely picking Gustafsson. Just not sure on the method yet.
Yeah, that's a really interesting point you brought up there. Another fight coming down March 16th at UFC 158. A guy we've had on both of our podcasts, Darren Cruikshank. He's going to be taking on the Canadian John McDessie in Montreal at UFC 158. What are your early thoughts on that one? I really think Cruikshank is a name we're going to be hearing a lot more in the lightweight division. He had that beautiful finish of Henry Martinez. I believe that was at UFC 154. I don't know, but no, that was UFC on Fox 5. Yeah, he looked incredible with that decapitation finish. Made it to the top plays on SportsCenter, which is awesome when any UFC fighter does it. I think Cruikshank is gonna win this one via stoppage, KO or TKO. He has some impressive stand up. And I'm looking forward to seeing how high he can climb up the lightweight ladder.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Sorry, I spaced out there. Cruikshank, he's just a really impressive fighter. He looked good on the Ultimate Fighter live, except for that knockout loss to Michael Vick, the much rangier opponent. I mean, heck, he threw a standing knee strike without even a move like clinch, and he was able to knock him out. So. But he's definitely learned from that. He's just looked more and more impressive as he's gone on. Certainly looks great against Henry Martinez. And he's got the wrestling background, too, that kind of gets slept on. I know I slept on it a little bit myself. It wasn't played up on Tough Live, but I think he can go fairly far. And I'm definitely excited to see his next fight because he's got a lot of good skills.
Yeah, for me, it's a very interesting fight. I mean, naturally, I'm leaning towards Cruikshank, but I don't see this fight as interesting as it would be on the feet. I've got to say, on the ground, Cruikshank's just a whole different fighter. Like you said, he's got the better wrestling. I see him just doing what Hallman did, and just overwhelming him very quickly, forcing McDessie into making a mistake on the feet. And just grabbing a takedown and trying to go for the submission. Seems McDessie's weakness is probably a stand-up game. Cruikshank's good in all assets. I don't think Cruikshank will ever be a top-tier fighter, especially in that division. But, as of right now, I'm thinking Cruikshank to overwhelm and to get the finish.
I think they're setting this fight up as 2 stand-up fighters. We know Cruikshank can wrestle. And it's worth noting as well, when he lost to James Vick on the show, he was actually going for a takedown, and James Vick threw a kick and the knee connected, which knocked him out. But he was actually looking for a takedown at the time. It landed. I mean, Cruikshank in his last fight against Martinez, he just looked amazing, and how he didn't win knockout of the night, I'll never understand. The kick was amazing. It was just such a good knockout. I know there was quite a few knockouts that night, and I'm pretty sure Thug Jitsu won it that night, and I don't want to take any credit away from Ease Edwards. I was rather just like arranged to kill me, but I just thought the head kick should have had it. That was just my own opinion. But yeah, I don't think Cruikshank will wrestle. I think he can. But I think he'll want to show off his kicking again. I think McDassie is quite a short fighter, perfect height for the knees and the kicks. So I think we're going to see another head kick knockout. I really do. I can't wait.
I agree with MMA Mental's prediction, man. Ray, you're calling it again. Cruikshank is going to kick this fool and go home, you know what I'm saying? He's going to high-five his dad, and they're both going to drive home in the goddamn truck, and then he's going to tweet pictures of himself alone. Darren Cruikshank, very impressive. He's on a 6-fight win streak. I don't see him being stopped, man. If I had to fucking fight this guy, even with the power of Thug Jitsu in my training or whatever, like, I would have no fucking answer with this guy. I would freeze in front of this guy. I would have, once he started his combinations, ending with those fucking kicks, no, man, it's all over. McDessie, whatever, to quote Vitor, get the clown out. Darren Cruikshank is going to win, probably via another head kick, zombie kick, knockout, if I had to call it right now. Which I am. Yeah.
Who'd win between Cruikshank and Ease Edwards?
Oh. See, I said with my Thug Jitsu training, I would have no answer. But my man Eves, he's seen guys like this. He's probably fighting one of these dudes right now just as a fucking goof. All right? You never know. With Thug Jitsu, dude, he'd find a way, man. He would find a way. But even fucking Cruikshank would be tough. I mean, Cruikshank, he beat Mike Ritchie's ass, dude. That's no fucking small feat there. But yeah, Cruikshank all the way.
Cruikshank, and we're actually planning on having Darren Cruikshank on the MMA podcast either next week or the week after, so keep your ears tuned into that, and really looking forward to having him back on. Speaking of guys we've had on our shows, and speaking of that UFC 158 card March 16th, another fight pinned up for that is Mike Ricci versus Colin Freak Show Fletcher, both recently on seasons of The Ultimate Fighter. Ricci on Tough 16, and Colin Freak Show Fletcher, maybe the biggest standout of that Tough Smashes season. What are your early thoughts on that one? Jay, I'll start off with you.
That's a really interesting fight. I mean, I really hope personally that neither fighter gets cut. That's what I'm first of all going to say. I think it's a very interesting fight because it puts it kind of answers where both fighters are at in the division. I think I'd like to see Freak Show get the win because he is a very interesting personality. But to me, first of all, I thought that Mike Ricci, as soon as he lost that fight to Colton Smith, I thought that he was going to take about 6 to 9 months or whatever off purely on his wrestling game. Because I think that right now is his biggest weakness. And all the other TriStar guys, you look at Rory McDonald, you look at GSP, you just think they're wrestling. It's on another level. My reaction was now that he's lost by that sort of grinding style, that he'd go away and practice it a ton. Maybe that's what he's done. Maybe he's done it very quickly, and that's what he's going to try and do against Freak Show. But yeah, it's a very interesting fight. If it stays on the feet, it will be very interesting. I think I'd like to see how well Freak Show does in the UFC. I don't want to see the man get cut. I think that's basically what I'm trying to say. I know that Ray, you're a massive fan of the Freak Show. What do you think?
Well, it's worth noting that the Freak Show made the call on MMA Mental. He said to me and Patrick that the fight he wants is Mike Ricci, and we tweeted it out, and that's the fight he's got. So what can I say? We do have powers. Yeah, so it is an interesting fight. I think it's worth noting what Jay was saying about Ricci and his wrestling. You've got to remember, Ricci was at 170 against the wrestler of Colton Smith, and obviously he couldn't deal with the wrestling. Down at the lower tier, dropping down to 155 and fighting the guys that are a bit lower down the rankings, he's not going to get to face those wrestlers yet, not if he gets higher up. Obviously, the lightweight division stacked with wrestlers near the top. So we've still got time to do that. I think Ricci Fletcher has got a stand-up fight written all over it. I think that's why Fletcher wanted the fight. I think that will suit Ricci as well. Which is hard for me because my heart is saying that Fletcher will win. You know, I really want Fletcher to win. I really want, like Jay said, I want Fletcher to do well. I don't want him to get cut. He's such a likeable person, and I think he can go on and do well in the UFC. but this is a very, very difficult fight. Ricci obviously is trained probably in one of the best camps in the world at TriStar, obviously training with the likes of GSP and Rory McDonald, as Jay said. My heart is saying Fletcher, my head's saying Ricci. I'm glad I don't have to make this pick like now, but I really, 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 really want the Freak Show to win.
And I gotta go with really, really wanting Mikey the Martian Ricci to fucking win. Honestly, I think this is a mismatch here. I think Mikey Ricci is just gonna dominate Fletcher, man, easily. He's coming off a fucking loss, but the fact that he actually is wanting to recover from that loss, just forget about it, put it behind him as soon as possible, that's a good sign. That means his head is in the right place. He's finally going to do the work, get to the fucking right weight that he's supposed to be at. And I think he's going to put it all together here, just like he did every fucking fight he had during The Ultimate Fighter. The finale, even, that was if he hadn't gotten kicked in the goddamn junk, he probably would have won. But yeah, in this fight, I think it's going to be a landslide victory. Mike Ricci is going to put on a fucking showcase. I don't think Colin Fletcher stands a chance. Even though he's a fun fighter to watch, I don't think it'll be an elimination from the UFC for any of them if they lose. But it's going to be a fun one. I'm definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, same here. It's going to be a goodie. Definitely, as with everybody, it's been said many times, hopefully no one gets cut here. I definitely think that Mike Ricci, he's got the advantage. I mean, he's going back, losing the Ultimate Fighter finale. He's going back to TriStar. He's got a top camp around him and stuff like that. I put a lot of stock in that, and it just helps when you have GSP and your Rory Max to train with. So I definitely, I'm leaning his way in this fight, but Colin Fletcher, he's a good mixed martial artist. He's got good striking. He's got good submissions. He usually sets up the subs with the strike. It's kind of like a Cowboy Cerrone type, if you will. Definitely, he was awesome to talk to. I'm hoping he pulls out this win, and he definitely can. But if I'm putting money on this one, I'd probably put a little on Ricci.
I just wanted to jump in before it goes back to Jake. There's something else I wanted to mention as well, and I didn't bring up the point before, was we recently spoke to Smiling Sam on the show as well, Smiling Sam Alvey, and he just seems to be the kind of person who got on with everybody. And interestingly enough, he said the one guy he didn't like in the house was Mike Ricci, because he was very, very arrogant, very complacent, and he said he felt that Ricci completely underestimated Colton Smith. Now, Ricci obviously comes from this great camp, and I'm hoping maybe Ricci thinks he's better than what he thinks he is. And if that's the case against Fletcher, he could get in trouble there. He needs to reel his neck in and kind of, if he's going to be fighting these people, he needs to give them the respect that they deserve. I don't think he did that with Colin Smith. I think that's why he got schooled. But if he's going to fight Colin Fletcher, he needs to make sure that he turns up and doesn't think he's won just by turning up. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I didn't really think of that, but yeah, that makes sense. Honestly, if I had to put my money on someone, it would be Ricci, but I do echo the same thoughts as everyone else, that I hope we see Fletcher stick around, win or loss. Finally, the last one I want to announce, February 16th in London at UFC on Fuel 7, we were going to see Dennis Seaver take on Cub Swanson, but Dennis Seaver is injured and has been replaced by Dustin Poirier. I actually like this fight more than Seaver-Swanson. Poirier's a more active fighter, so I think this is going to be a very exciting fight as to where Seaver, I like his fights, but he does have a slower, more plodding style. What are your early thoughts? I had Swanson over Seaver. I have Swanson over Poirier too. He's just really evolved the last few years, and he's starting to put his grappling together, his striking together, and I think a little bit down the road we'll see a rematch between Swanson and the guy who knocked him out in 4 seconds, Josie Aldo.
Well, I'm obviously, I've got tickets for this event, and I'm going to be going, and I can't wait. I think it's going to be, in general, I think the whole event's going to be brilliant anyway. I was excited to see Seaver Swanson, because I think Seaver's looked pretty good since he dropped down, especially against Namphan. He annihilated Namphan. I know Namphan's not a top guy, and it wasn't the fact that he beat him, it was how he beat him. because we know Siva can strike, but we haven't really seen a ground game from Siva. And he literally took Damfan down. I mean, I'm sure some of the rounds were given as 10-8s and 10-7s. It was that dominating. It's ridiculous. But I actually think I would have gone for Siva over Swanson. Doesn't mean I'd have got it right, but that's what I'd have been thinking. Poirier and Swanson, that again, it's another good fight. They're two top guys in and around the top 10. I don't know yet who I'll be picking, to be honest with you. I need to look into the fight more because I rate both guys. I think they're both brilliant.
You raped both guys?
Rate. A-T-E, not A-P-E. I only rape you, Jakey. So, I honestly don't know who I'm leaning towards at the minute. They're both brilliant fighters, and I'm going to be in the crowd. I'm going to be screaming at the top of lungs. I can't wait for this fight. I mean, obviously, this is the co-main now, and the main event's an epic fight as well. So, yeah, I'm just really excited, or as you'd like to say, I'm pumped for this fight.
They raping everybody up in the MMA podcast tonight, fellas. And speaking of getting fucked, Cub Swanson is looking around right now wondering who fucked him by getting this replacement, man. Poirier, dude, he's got the submissions, he's got the ground game, which Swanson, I don't think he has any answer for. And if it's on the feet, it's only a matter of time before Poirier figures out a way to get Swanson down. It's not going to be that difficult to do it to him. This is another one, man. It seems like it's going to be one-sided landslide, dude. I'm calling Dustin on this one. Dustin all the way. Cub Swanson, I'm sorry, man. You're getting raped.
Oh, Ramses, you could not be more wrong, sir. I swear to you, I'm not just going with Cub in this one because he's the hometown hero in P-Money's home. But I really think, Poirier, he was getting lit up on the feet by Jonathan Brookins before Poirier ended up coming back. And I think Swanson, his boxing's getting tighter. He's looking powerful. He's ready to do this. And he's over there with Jackson's MMA. They're getting him right. He's got his streak going. He's knocking everybody out. And the way I saw Poirier getting lit up by Brookins, who has not been known for his stand-up, although it looked tighter that night, I think Cub, he's got the striking, he's got the power. He's going to put Poirier out. Cub, round one knockout.
It's a very interesting fight. Swanson, I don't know how the hell Swanson's managed to pour himself back to this title shot position. Did anybody watch the first fight? He got knocked out inside 6 seconds. That's absolutely crazy. At least, hopefully, the next fight, he'll stay away for the first 6 seconds, just in case. But, I think it is an interesting fight. But, Poirier got outstruck by Korean Zombie when, for, 3 out of the 4 rounds it lasted. I just see Swanson being far too much on the feet for Poirier. Yeah, he'll be looking for the takedown, but Swanson is on a run recently, and that is why he's in the supposed talks against Aldo. But I love the Siva fight so much more. Siva Swanson just sounded incredible. I'm a bit gutted with that fight change, but hey, they've given us Jorge Santiago versus Gunnar Nelson, so that's a good enough replacement for me anyway.
Certainly, yeah. It's going to be a pretty exciting fight, and I think the fact that we're kind of drawn down the line on it sort of shows how close it'll be. Let's move on to Guess That Tweet before we break down this weekend's UFC on Fox card. Currently, the MMA podcast doing work 9 to 5. Ramses, the 2-time defending champion, working his way up there. I don't know if anyone's going to be able to take the belt from Ramses, but I guess
still undefeated.
Still undefeated, still undisputed. Jay, I guess since you were an original MMA Mental host, we'll throw you over on Team MMA Mental, so it'll be Ramses and I representing Team MMA Podcast, and Patrick and Jay for Team MMA Mental. Ray, you have your tweets?
I do. And listen, right, we're 9-5 down. There's no pressure on you, but I ain't going to speak to either of you if you lose.
Oh, shit. Well, Ray, I'll pass it on to you.
We'll do this.
I'm not a loser, but I'll disappear. Okay, I've got 6 tweets. We'll do 5. And if we need a tiebreaker, we'll do one. If we don't, we'll do it anyway just for fun. But here we go. We've got our 6 tweets, right? So tweet number 1. You've got your guess order all sorted, and we're going to go snake just so because we like that because it confuses people. It's fun when we get confused. So we'll go snake. So it'll be Patrick first to Ramses, and then Ramses back the other way. Okay. Yeah, okay, right. Tweet number 1 then. Fucking, it's cold here. -30, wind chill. Mexicans shouldn't have to suffer through this. Is it Cain Velasquez, Ulysses Gomez, Pablo Garza, Rey Mysterio?
Rey Mysterio throwing in the curveball with the wrestling. I'll go with Ulysses Gomez.
Yeah, I couldn't see Cain Velasquez saying that, and I feel like Rey Mysterio is sort of a red herring. So between Ulysses Gomez and Pablo Garza, you said it was?
That's correct.
All right, out of those two, I'll go with Pablo Garza.
For me, what was it? Who was it again? Did you say Ulysses Gomez?
It's Pablo Garza, Cain Velasquez, Ulysses Gomez, or Rey Mysterio.
I've got to go with Ulysses Gomez. I mean, Pablo Garza seems like a bit of an internet nerd. He likes to read his books and stuff like that. Cain Velasquez, I doubt, would say anything like that. And Rey Mysterio, I don't even think counts as an MMA tweeter. So, I'm going to go with Ulysses Gomez.
I'm going to have to copy Jay's answer here. I also believe that it was Useless Gomez.
Okay, right. It was not Cain Velasquez.
Yep.
It was not Rey Mysterio.
Of course.
It was not Ulysses.
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Suck it, y'all. 1 point ahead of you, motherfuckers.
1 point to Jakey. Right. Tweet number 2. This is just going to throw audience because this is such a shit one, but we're going to do it anyway. I do want to learn some Aikido, though. Okay? So who wants to learn Aikido? Is it Kendall Grove, Chris Lieben, Derek Brunson, or CB Dollaway? All middleweights.
Oh, fuck. Can you read me the first 3 options? I know the last one was CB Dollaway.
Okay. Chris Lieben, Derek Brunson, Kendall Grove.
I'll go with Chris Lieben.
Kendall Grove, Chris Lieben. Who are the other two? Sorry about it.
Derek's alright. Derek Brunson and CB Dollaway.
Go on then. I'll go with CB Dollaway.
I'm going to go with Derek Brunson just because of sheer numbers. I feel like every time I check Twitter, he's tweeted like 18 times in the last 5 minutes. The guy's been tweeting his ass off. Derek Brunson.
Damn you, Jake, you best. I'm also thinking Derek Brunson. He's always on the Twitter, 50,000 followers plus. I'm rolling with him.
Okay. It was not CB Dollaway.
Oh.
It was not Kendall Grove. And it was not Chris Lieben.
Yeah, tried to mess with us, huh? I see what you're doing there.
I'm rubbish, guys. I'm rubbish.
Don't worry, this is a hard game, but it's fun. Right, so Jake's got 2, Patrick's got 1. Defending champ Ramses. Jay's newcomer. We're making excuses for Jake. Right, number 3. I'm ready. Are you? Tickets still available at UFC UK. Is it Andy Ogle, Paul Sass, Jimmy Manuwa, Tom Watson?
Ooh, definitely a tough one there. Oh, I'll go with Andy Ogle.
Yeah, I was thinking Andy Ogle, but for the sake of parody, I'll go with Jimmy Manuwa.
Did you say Tom Watson?
Tom Watson, Paul Sass, Andy Ogle, Jimmy Manuwa.
I swear I saw Tom Watson say something like that, so I'm going to say Tom Watson.
And I'll just go with Paul Sass. Yeah.
Okay. It was not Jimmy Manuwa. Haha, Jakey. It
Boo.
was not Paul Sass.
Fuck.
Haha, Ramses. It was not Andy Ogle. It was Tom Kong Watson. Jay gets his first point.
Yes. That's
Well
where I
done.
saw.
Whoop whoop.
So it's 2-1-1-0. Right. Tweet number 4. If you don't love this movie, you suck. Hashtag TBT. Hashtag Karate Kid. Hashtag Daniel San. Hashtag classic movie. Hashtag martial arts. Hashtag UFC. Hashtag MMA. Is it?
Going hard on the hashtags.
Hashtags, baby. Is it Diego Sanchez, Chris Lieben, Kenny Florian, Forrest Griffin, all of them tough one contestants?
Oh man, can't put up 0 points. I gotta make some sort of effort here, some sort of flurry. Who are the last? One more time.
I'll read them all out. Right, they're all tough one contestants. We've got Diego Sanchez, Chris Lieben, Kenny Florian, Forrest Griffin.
Karate Kid. Not Forrest. It's just Ken Florian.
I've got to go with Kenny Florian. He's the only one on that list who sounds like he'd be watching that sort of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say Kenny Florian as well. Forrest Griffin, it isn't really that off the edge crazy, so I can't go with Forrest Griffin. It's not philosophical, so I won't go with Diego Sanchez. And Lieben's been MIA since that loss on Twitter, so I'll go with Kenny Florian.
I hate to do it, but I got to go Ken Flo as well. It just makes sense. I could see this being time frame appropriate for Forrest Griffin, but I've never seen him blow up the hashtags like that, so I'll go with Ken Flo.
Okay. It was not Kenny Florian. It was not Chris Lieben.
Oh, boy.
It was not Diego Sanchez. It was not Forrest Griffin, and I lied, it was Kenny Florian.
Oh, you bastard.
That's rubbish. Oh, come on.
1 point.
So Jake's on 3. Jay and Patrick are on 2. Ramsey's on 1. So really, Patrick and Jay need to stay away from Jake's answers to try and get into a tiebreaker. Okay?
You want me to go first just so they can stay away from it?
Are we happy with that, boys?
Sure. Oh, not really, but let's whatever's clever.
Yeah. Jake, you go first then, and then we'll follow suit. So we'll go Jake, Patrick, Jay, Ramses, okay? Here we go. Number 5. Funny how hashtag Smiling Sam beat Amuso, and now he's fighting for the title. Was it Mike Ricci, Neil Magny, Bristol Moronde, Carlton Smith, all tough 16 contestants?
It seemed like more of a tweet that someone's complaining about something. I haven't really seen any of these guys complain that much except Mike Ricci, who complained his ass off about Tough 16. So I'll go with Mike Ricci.
Ooh, did I get the other 3 again, right?
Yes. Neil Magny, Bristol Moronde, Carlton Smith.
I'll go with Bristol Moronde.
I reckon the only one that makes sense out of those is Mike Ricci, so I'm going to go with that.
Bristol Moronde as well.
Okay. It was not Mike Ricci.
Oof.
It was not Carlton Smith. Is there going to be a tiebreaker? It was not Neil Magny. It was Bristol Moronde. We have our tiebreaker.
Wow. Me and Patrick.
Damn.
We have our tiebreaker. Right, we need to flip an imaginary coin for heads or tails.
Does Ramses, Jay, Ray, you have a coin nearby?
No, I don't have anything.
I've got one, yeah.
All right, Ramsey or Ray Patrick. I'll let you call it in the air.
Right, you're going to hear it go. Heads or tails, Patrick?
Tails, never tails.
It was tails.
Ooh, I was going to go with tails too.
So, Patrick, you will get first shout. Now, yeah, we'll what we'll do, you both pick an answer each. If you both get it wrong, then we'll go back to Jake to give Jake first option out of the last 2, because we need a winner, okay? We're not tying with the MMA podcast. Alright, that's the terms. Okay? So, tweet number 6 between the last 2. Patrick, you are first. I officially rubbed my nipples off training gi today. Was it Phil Harris, Ulysses Gomez, Ian McCall, John Dodson, all UFC flyweights.
Oh boy. Oh. Yeah, not only are they all flyweights, I could really see any one of them saying that. Oh, shit. Okay, this is for the big one. I'm going to have to go with Ulysses Gomez again. He won't fail me this time.
All right, could you go over that list one more time with me?
Yep, Ulysses Gomez is out of the running. You've got Phil Harris, Ian McCall, John Dodson, all UFC flyweights.
Wow. You know, Uncle Creepy usually keeps it kind of serious, but I could see him saying that. The other two, I honestly don't see tweeting much. I honestly think I would have gone with Gomez if I had the first pick. Even though I sort of think you threw him in there just because he's one of the top flyweights, I'll go with him anyway. I'll go with Ian McCall.
Right, I can reveal we do have a winner, so it was not.
Oh shit! It was Gomez.
It was Ian McCall.
I know who it is.
It's Ian McCall.
Yeah.
Oh, you bastard.
Well done.
Nicely done.
Taking the 10-5 lead, stretching out way ahead.
But I think Patrick and Jay both did MMA Mental proud this week, so well done, boys. Well done.
Well done, everybody, especially me, because I'm the best. I'm the king of the universe. I'm the greatest human being to ever live. All right. Well, yeah. I guess I want to thank Jesus Christ and Allah first and foremost for bringing me this victory, and shout out to Chris, who I know is listening back in Cali.
Shut up, Vitor Belfort.
Shut up, Vitor Belfort. I am ready. I am ready. Shout out to Chris. We hope we see you back on this thing sooner rather than later. Next week, Ramses, you are going to be hosting, so get your tweets ready, and I'm looking forward to seeing which tweets you pick up. Have you ever hosted this? Have you hosted yet, Ramses?
Oh, I have not. It will be my first time, and it's great to do it after, that's why I actually relinquished my title to you tonight, because I knew I'm hosting next week, and it wouldn't be fair if I was a champ and I had to host, so there you go, Jake. Congratulations.
10-5 lead on MMA Mental. You guys got to get on your game, son. But yeah, let's move on to this weekend's or this Saturday's UFC on Fox card. UFC on Fox 5, Johnson versus Dodson. We got a bunch of fights to break down. 3 on the prelims, 4 on the main card. Let's start with those prelim fights. We'll start in the light heavyweight division, where we got Ryan Bader taking on Vladimir the Janitor Matyushenko. Who do you got in this one? Mine's plain and simple. Ryan Bader is stronger, faster, more athletic, and is going to take this one, I say, by a 30-27 decision.
Yeah, for some reason the UFC really wants Ryan Bader to stick around. So this is obviously one of those layup gimme fights. It's he's fucking he's fucking floating out there, and his boat is starting to flood. So this is his one chance to bail himself out. If he loses this one, if he loses to Vladimir the Janitor, I'd say he's probably going to get cut, right? I mean, Jesus. Ryan Bader, man, you better pull this one off. I think he will. It's a pretty easy fucking fight, as long as he doesn't oh man. I'm just having flashbacks of the Tito Ortiz fight. Just as long as that shit doesn't happen, I got Ryan fucking Bader.
I got to go with Bader as well. Permitted, like Ramsey said, he doesn't pull a Tito Ortiz / Lyoto Machida and just run in there coming in wild, because that's how he seems to get caught. He just has that chin out there. However, I do think he's really like him and Vladimir Matyushenko. They're almost like the same fighter, just separated by about 10 or 12 years. Really so close to carbon copies of each other. But I got to go with the young buck and Ryan Bader.
Yeah, I've got to agree that they are pretty much carbon copies separated by 12 years. One of them, the only difference is Ryan Bader's got more obvious KO power. I'm rooting for Vladimir purely because I like the bit of the nostalgia that he's been there a while, but I've got to pick Ryan Bader to win.
I think Bader to win. I think the real topic should be, will he get a stoppage or not? Because I think some people think he will, some people think he won't. I agree with what most of you have said. I don't think he'll get a stoppage. Vladimir's very tough. He's been around for a long time. We've obviously seen Vladimir stop before, but when I think about him being stopped in the past, it tends to be when he's caught by numerous punches, not just by one punch. And the two that jump to mind are Gustafsson and going even further back, Arlovsky. And they didn't just catch one punch; they opened him up and then got the knockout. Where Bader's one of these guys who's got that. He throws the overhand right. He's not really technical. He just throws the power. We've seen it against Keith Jardine when he was losing, then he caught him. So yeah, I think Bader will just win it. He'll get the decision. He'll hold up against the fence. I don't think it's going to be a great fight to watch, but I think Bader will win a unanimous decision.
Yeah, moving on. I actually wasn't planning on covering it at first, but I was looking at the card again. I thought we should cover it. Mike Russo versus Sean the Savage Jordan. Who do you have in that one? I think Russo has an incredible career, one of the more underrated careers. The guy fought in Pride. He's 15-2. Only losses to top guys, both in Fabricio Verdum and Sergey Karatanov back at Pride 33. Russo really has an in-your-face kind of style that I don't think Sean Jordan's going to be able to deal with. Jordan coming off that loss to Chick Congo, I don't think he gets the job done here either. I got Russo.
Yeah, this fucking fight, I haven't even thought about who might win it, because honestly, who gives a damn? It's going to be a fun fight to watch. I'll keep it real short. I have no call on this one. It's gonna go where it's gonna fucking go. I just want to see these two fucking oversized doofuses just beat the hell out of each other. That's all I'm in it for. So I got both of them. I hope they fucking knock each other out at the fucking same time, just like a bunch of dumbasses. But I love them both. Love them to death. Word on the street.
Awesome. Bold double KO prediction. For myself, I'm thinking Sean Jordan is just going to straight up knock out Mike Russo. Russo, he's got the wrestling advantage in my book, but last time I checked, Mike Russo was also a full-time police officer. For Sean Jordan, I really liked what I saw from him in his UFC debut against Ollie Thompson. I really liked his movement for a heavyweight. I heard some things about him having a suspect chin, but I saw him take a couple tough ones from old Thompson, so who knows? And Russo can definitely take it with his wrestling, but I'm going to go with the more athletic Sean Tompkins in this one. I'm sorry, Sean Jordan.
Yeah, Sean Thompson. Like what?
Coming back as a zombie.
Is he? Sean Thompson. Don't even recognize the name.
Wasn't Sean Johnson the little Olympic girl?
Oh, I thought Patrick said Sean Tompkins.
I think I said Sean Thompson, but just pay no attention to me.
I heard Sean Tompkins.
Based on this exchange here, I'm gonna vote for Mike Russo to win this fight because nobody knows who the fuck Sean, whatever his name is. Mike Russo.
I'm picking Mike Russo, but only because it's a bit of a hometown matchup. I think that's going to play into Mike Russo's hands a little bit more. I don't know. It's a weird fight. I think Sean Jordan's got more tools, but Mike Russo's just been around that a little bit longer. I mean, he's had the Pride experience as well. I'm picking Mike Russo.
I'm picking Mike Russo as well. I don't think either guy's going to ever be a top-tier heavyweight in the UFC. They've both got probably one really, really big, impressive win on their resume. You've got Sean Jordan over LeVar Johnson. You've got Mike Russo over Todd Duffy, which was a bit of a shock because Duffy basically used him as a punch bag for sort of 2 rounds or 3 rounds and then got caught with like a little jab and then just crumbled, which was a bit of a shock. But yeah, I think Russo, I can see him using his wrestling. The only time Russo's ever looked like he doesn't belong was when he fought Verdum, and obviously completely outclassed him. But I think it's going to be a close fight, but I can either see Russo getting a late stoppage or using his wrestling and grinding out a UD. I don't think it's going to be a very exciting fight, to be honest with you.
Yeah, both guys. I don't know if they really have comparable gas tanks. Russo's isn't really questioned, but I don't think he's the kind of athlete like Sean Jordan, the ex-football player for LSU. Moving on to the last two prelim bouts. Clay the Carpenter Guida, after a long stint at lightweight, he's making his debut at featherweight to take on Hatsu Hioki, who was perennially kind of the number 2 featherweight in the world before losing to Ricardo Lamas via unanimous decision this past June, having his stock drop tremendously. What I think is going to go down in this one, Hioki's a guy who's known for a lot of trip takedowns and dominating his will from the top, but Guida fights with such a frenetic pace, I really don't know whether Hioki's going to be able to quell that with Guida, so I've got a Guida 29-28 decision. What about y'all?
Getting very specific there with the 29-28. I like it.
Yes, sir.
I think Guida's going to take this as well. It's just, for me, Hioki, he's been very hit and miss in the UFC. He didn't look very good against Roop. He did look very good against Bart Polashevsky, I thought. But then he dropped the ball against Lamas, so I got to go with Guida. I mean, he's just an insane guy. It's so hard for him to be finished. He's got the unlimited cardio. He's got a cast iron jaw. Dare I say, I mean, he's got a lead jaw. I mean, nothing is breaking this shit. Guida's just going to grind him out. Easy win for the Carpenter.
Yeah, I kind of got to agree with what you guys have said so far. I'm picking Guida again. It's another hometown fight. I think Hioki does have some potential, but I don't know. I think Guida's going to be too fast for him. He's going to be moving a lot, as you said. He's probably got the wrestling advantage. It's an interesting fight, but I don't see how Guida loses it.
For me, this is Ramsey's mate, Uncle Dana White, putting another nail in the coffin for Jammer. You know, we've seen it. We've seen all these guys that are in Japan. Hatsuyoki's number 2 guy in the featherweight division until he joins the UFC and actually faces some real competition. The best guys are in the UFC, you know, probably a few exceptions. But Japanese MMA has always struggled in North America because the American athletes push themselves to the limit with the weight classes they fight at. You know, they get the most out of their body with the weight cuts and stuff, where the Japanese don't really do that because they don't have the weight so much in Japan. When you look at Dream and Pride and all that. But yeah, this is, I mean, for me, whatever Lamas could do to Hioki, Guida can do better, because for me, Clay Guida is a better fighter than Ricardo Lamas. So Guida's going to come in, he's going to fight at a high tempo. I think Jake's being generous, making it 29-28. I think it's going to be 30-27. I don't see how Hioki can win a round. Guida's going to put him on his back, going to beat him up for 5 minutes, then do it again for the next round, do it again. It's Guida all the way. I'll be shocked if Guida loses a round, never mind the fight.
First of all, I want to thank Jesus Christ for making this possible, everybody. We all know the real carpenter is not Clay Guida. The carpenter was Jesus Christ. Gary Lena Lorenzo, get that clown out of the UFC, Clay Guida. He hung away from Gray Maynard. He embarrassed the UFC, Dana Lorenzo on Fox forever. Get them out of here. Pour the wine. Light the champagne fires. Yum, Hiatsu. I hope he knock you out, Clay Guida. Get him out. You're not even good enough for the reality show. Get him back to Facebook. Get him back to MySpace. Get the clown out. Thank you.
Oh, I thought somebody else was up, but that's me up, so I was just clapping like a dipshit. Yeah, I think we all agree. Clay the Carpenter Guida will probably take that one. The last prelim fight is TJ Grant versus handsome Matt Wyman. This is going to be a close fight as well. You have both of them, who I think are two of the more underrated lightweights in the UFC. Grant on a 3-fight win streak against Evan Dunham, Carlo Prater, and Shane Roller. Wyman himself on a pretty good win streak, defeating Paul Sass and Mac Danzig after a loss to Dennis Seaver. This is really tough, but I think I'm going to go with Wyman. Wyman's a really, really excellent wrestler. Puts his, just really grinds dudes out, and he looked great on the ground, armbarring Paul Sass back a few months ago at Struve vs. Miocic, UFC on Fuel. So yeah, I've got handsome Matt Wyman in this one. What about you guys?
I know I'm up first, but I really, really haven't thought about this fight. It seems like seems like I don't seem to give an opinion, so somebody can go first.
Yeah, I'll jump in. For me, this fight is so underrated. I think this is going to be an amazing fight. I think if it wasn't on the same card as Pettis and Cerrone, which is obviously going to be an amazing fight, this fight would be getting a lot more hype. Because these two lightweights, for me, are two of the most exciting lightweights at the minute. Wyman against Sass. I mean, obviously, of course, I was rooting for Sass. I was in the crowd, and I was absolutely gutted. But I love Matt Wyman. I love watching him fight. He's so exciting to watch. And then TJ Grant against Evan Dunham. I mean, TJ Grant just blew me away in that fight. I mean, I knew the guy could wrestle. That's what he does. But the striking in that fight looked absolutely amazing. But I actually think at the minute, the one to watch out of these two, I really feel, is TJ Grant. I mean, this guy's just come out of nowhere. He was at welterweight. He was good. He was okay. He didn't really stand out. He drops to lightweight. He's had a couple of wins, obviously, against no one really. Shane Roller's not that good. Carlo Prater's not that good. Then he comes up against Evan Dunham, and it's just such an epic fight. And he wins in a way. It wasn't the fact he won; it was how he won that impressed me. I've said that before. It's not necessarily who they win, who they beat. It's how they beat them. And it was such a brilliant fight. And I just see him using his striking. He'll keep the fight up, and he'll use his new Thai boxing that he's learned, and I see him beating Matt Wyman up for 3 rounds. Wyman's tough, so you ain't going to put Wyman away, I don't think. But yeah, I've got Grant in an exciting unanimous decision. But definitely a contender for fight of the night as well, even though it's on the prelims.
Yeah, I'm barely giving it to TJ Grant. That's just because he's just had more of an impressive win streak lately. But they're both decision fighters, so I'm predicting this fight is going to be boring as shit. That's pretty much all I have to say about this one. Slight edge to TJ Grant, just because he's had the most boring finishes lately. That's it.
Well,
Patrick?
I'm definitely on the Grant train myself. I'm thinking he'll take this one by a decision. I think this will be an exciting fight, though. I love Grant's stand-up. I think he's a solid grappler. And Matt Wyman, he's a constantly underrated guy. However, I mean, even though he looked like a beast submitting Paul Sass and get what was really a comeback submission. I mean, I was surprised Sass was actually taking him down and dominating him until Wyman came through with this submission. Definitely complimented his previous wins well. But like Ray mentioned, TJ Grant dropping down from 170, I got to think he's going to have just a little bit of the size and strength on his side. Combine that with the fact I do like TJ Grant a little bit than Matt Wyman's. I think he's just a little bit better at what he does, and I think he's going to be able to do it against Matt Wyman and get the unanimous decision, if not a stoppage.
Yeah, I was looking a little bit more into it. The reason I'm a little hesitant about giving the fight to Wyman is Grant does have a 5-inch reach advantage, and that could work toward his favor, both standing up and grappling, having more torque behind all those moves. Let's move on to the main card. We got 4 fights that are going to be broadcast on Fox, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, 1 a.m. UK time on Saturday night. All pretty good fights, starting off with a featherweight bout between Eric, the new breed Koch, we haven't seen in a while. He hasn't fought since September 2011 when he defeated Jonathan Brookins via unanimous decision. Since then, since that fight, Ricardo Lamas has beaten both Cub Swanson and Hatsu Hioki and really moved himself up to the top of the featherweight division, even though he finished his WEC career with a KO loss in the first round to Yuri Alcantara. Who do I have in this one? I think it's going to be really close. If ring rust comes into effect, which it could, as Eric Koch hasn't fought in a year and a half, obviously that's not going to be good. If it ends early, I'll say it's Eric Koch knockout because he has power in his hands. But honestly, what I'm thinking is going to happen is another Ricardo Lamas decision that puts him maybe a victory away from a title shot.
It's worth noting as well. I mean, obviously we know Eric Koch had the layoff. But it's worth noting that before the layoff, he was down to fight Jose Aldo next. He was the number 1 contender. It was going to be Aldo versus Koch, and poor old Koch got the injury, and of course he's fallen so far down now, just because there's been so many guys that have come up, especially a lot of guys that have dropped down from lightweight that have pushed ahead. People like Frankie Edgar. Dennis Sievers raised his profile. Clay Guida's just dropped down, which is another high-profile name from lightweight. So he's obviously fallen quite far back because of that. Ricardo Lamas, I mean, for me, what Lamas is going to do is going to get hold of Coke and he's going to try and put him on his back and he's going to grind him out for 15 minutes. Now, we know Chad Mendes did that to Eric Coke. We know Coke's definitely more explosive out of the two, but for me, can Coke stop the wrestling of Lamas? And I want him to be able to. I want Coke to win because I think he's a more exciting fighter. But if I'm being honest, I really see Ricardo Lamas just pinning him down and grinding him out for a decision.
No, I got to disagree a little bit, but yeah, you brought up a good point. Ray stole the words right out of my mouth, so I will keep it short. Eric Koch, he was at the top of the line and just got sidelined with the injury, and then just buried at the back of the line for some reason, forgotten. But I didn't forget. I think he's going to take it, and plus Ricardo Lamas. That name, that's a stupid ass name. It sounds like a fake Mexican wrestler. For that reason alone, I would just pick against him. Eric Koch, I'm going to say takes this easily. I think there's a reason they're putting him on the main card right away, and I think we're going to see it. Word on the street.
Yeah, because I think Koch definitely has a good chance to get the knockout in this fight. Part of me wants to say that Lamas can get it done with his wrestling, but I'm not sold on Lamas's chin, and Koch, he's coming out of Rufus Sport. We know what their camp's all about. It's solid striking, and Koch's definitely got it. I think he's going to put one right on Lamas's chin and put him out.
I was originally picking Lamas for the decision, but I never really took into consideration his chin, especially in the featherweight division. However, saying that, I'm actually still going to stick to my opinion of Lamas. I mean, Eric Koch is a good fighter, but even when he's matched up to fight Jose Aldo, I think I had him 10th, and I think I had Dustin Poirier 11th. I think the other way around. I had Eric Koch 11th and Dustin Poirier 10th. At the time, I couldn't understand the shot. I mean, the fact that Koch was being pushed, but I guess Aldo's just cleared out the division. I'm going to stick to Lamas by decision.
Yeah, both of them are pretty evenly matched up, and either way, you know, Koch, like Ray mentioned, was scheduled to fight, fight Jose Aldo at both UFC 149 and UFC 143 before both of them kind of went over the injury hurdles. Let's move on to a lightweight belt, one we've been waiting for a long time. Anthony Showtime Pettis taking on the Cowboy Donald Cerrone. Who you got? I've been waiting for this fight for a long time. Both of them have signature wins on their record. Obviously, Anthony Pettis is the only man to defeat the champion, Benson Henderson, coming off 2 wins against Jeremy Stevens and Joe Lauzon after losing a fight to Clay Guida for #1 title contendership. Donald Cerrone, I think that was a fight for a title eliminator fight. Donald Cerrone is on a 2-fight win streak of himself, also defeated Jeremy Stevens, and then had like Anthony Pettis a first-round knockout in his most previous fight after that decision win against Stevens, which was a win against Melvin Gillard. He really got handled by Nate Diaz, but you look at Cerrone, all 4 losses on his record are pretty memorable. The Nate Diaz fight was really the only bad performance he's ever put forward. Obviously, you had the Jamie Varner fight back at WEC 38 that people got angry at Jamie Varner for where when he backed out because of an illegal knee to the head. Replay showed that only grazed his dome. And obviously, the 2 fights with Benson Henderson, pretty legendary. The first fight being, in my opinion, the greatest fight in MMA history. Both of these guys have big toolboxes. They have the stand-up, they have the ground, but I think Cerrone's toolbox is a little bit bigger. Cerrone loves to finish fights via submission. Anthony Pettis, Pettis has never been stopped. Both wins by a decision. Cerrone only been stopped 1 time, which was that rematch against Benson Henderson. This is going to be really close, but all in all, I feel like Donald Cerrone is just a little quicker, a little more athletic, a little bit stronger, and I think because of that X factor, he defeats Showtime Pettis.
I gotta disagree, man. I think Anthony Pettis has got this one, man. he just has a more impressive record overall in victories. And then what the deciding thing is here for me is Donald Cerrone's last fight. I mean, he actually thinks that knockout with Melvin Gillard was real. He thinks that was real. All right, that was a fucking fake knockout, if I've ever seen one, and I've seen plenty. All right, guys. So Donald Cerrone, I'm not that impressed, man. I'm not that impressed at all. Other than that, his last two were fucking decision fights, and then one of them was a loss. They both beat Jeremy Stevens' ass, but shit, who hasn't at this point? But I gotta give the edge to Anthony Pettis, man. I just think Cerrone's not gonna have much of an answer for how technical Pettis is and how much he's gonna bring it to him. Because let's face it, Pettis wants to beat Cerrone more than Cerrone wants to beat Pettis, in my opinion. All right, Cerrone's got Pettis wants it more, man. He wants this win more. It'll mean more if he gets it. Cerrone, man, like I said, I don't believe in him anymore. Not after that fake knockout. So yeah, I'm going Showtime on this one, all the way.
I'm going Showtime as well. I got to go with the Showtime decision. Cowboy, he's a tough competitor. He's good all around for sure. He's a durable guy. He can take a licking. He's never been finished, not that I can recall anyhow. And I just think Pettis is just a little bit better in every step of the game. I mean, especially when we examine common opponents. You look at Anthony Pettis, he's got the win over Benson Henderson. And that is something Donald Cerrone does not have. He's got 2 losses. And in that fight with Benson Henderson, I mean, I saw a guy who was a good technical striker and a good grappler, too. I mean, that fight with Benson Henderson, that was, talk about top MMA fights of all time. Pettis Henderson, that was a fantastic fight. I mean, great striking. The grappling was immaculate. It was just an exciting fight. It went everywhere, and it was never boring. And for that reason, Pettis having come out the victor in that one and just being more competitive overall than Cerrone, besides winning, I've got to go with him to beat the Cowboy. Plus, we all know that we want to see Pettis Henderson 2 in the UFC for the lightweight title, and I think if Pettis wins, this could very well set that up.
I think this fight is going to be fight of the night. It has potentially to be fight of the year. I mean, I can't really remember a time either fighter was involved in an incredibly boring match on their behalf. I mean, Pettis lost to Guida, which was fairly unimpressive, but that wasn't his fault. To me, it's going to come down to who is the better striker. To me, that's got to be Pettis. The better wrestler, probably again Pettis, but I think Cerrone's got the better submission game, but he's going to struggle to get it there, which means that I think it's going to be contested on the feet. Pettis, I think, is going to take the feet game. I think in my head it's going to be a very technical match that Pettis wins. However, I don't know, every fight with Cerrone just seems to be a little bit more interesting.
I'll tell you what, I'm so looking forward to this fight. This fight is going to be brilliant. It's going to be...
MMA brilliant.
It's going to be mental.
MMA mental.
This fight's going to be amazing. There's just I don't know how this fight can be boring. You know, they're both charismatic. Obviously, Pettis feels he's got a point to prove. He's talked about how... Because I was on the conference call, obviously, not that I don't want to shout that out too much, but I was on the conference call. And he was talking about how he's watching people that he's beat now go on a run and move ahead of him. And he talked about Joe Lawson, of course. He knocked Joe Lawson out of a pretty big head kick. And now Lawson's come out of nowhere and had, the brilliant fight with Varner, the brilliant fight with Jim Miller, and raised his stock. And of course, Pettis is just sitting there out injured. Cerrone called Pettis out when he was injured and said he was ducking, which obviously annoyed him. But yeah, this is going to be an amazing fight. It's one of those fights where it doesn't really matter who wins, it's just going to be amazing. But I think Pettis is going to win. There's just something about that guy, and like Patrick said, I think it's destined. We're destined to see the Showtime kick fight again. We're going to see Bendo versus Pettis again, but this time it won't be Pettis. This time it'll be Bendo. But yeah, I've got Pettis to win this fight, but it's just going to be epic.
It is going to be an epic-ass fight. A fight that I don't think is going to be as close as Pettis versus Rampage. Pettis versus Cerrone. That's Rampage versus Glover Teixeira. Glover Teixeira is as far as beatdowns go. That first round beatdown of Fabio Maldonado was absolutely amazing. Glover is here to stay in the UFC. I think he'll be here a while. Quentin Jackson just looks like he's looking for a road out of the UFC. If anything, I think Quentin Jackson's just going to let Glover knock him out if he tries. I don't think he has a chance. Jackson does have a pretty durable chin. He hasn't been knocked out since 2005, but he'll easily lose those rounds if Teixeira lands with the volume and precision he has in bouts previously. I don't care if this is his last fight, his first fight, his middle-of-the-road fight. Jackson, I think, will give a spirited effort, but you know what? He's not the fighter he used to be. He'll never be that fighter again. Go over to Bellator, have fun, sucking off King Mo, whatever you're going to do over there. Just, you've become a nuisance. I never thought I'd be saying this. I'm glad Rampage is finally leaving the UFC, and he'll be doing so with a first-round KO loss, I think, to Glover Teixeira.
Yeah, that's very likely, Jake. God, I think what we've seen from Glover Teixeira, he's just a beast. I mean, the Fabio Maldonado fight, I think, was a crime that it even went past the first round. I mean, the shots that Glover Teixeira hits people with are just insanely brutal. And I do not think, with Rampage where he's at in this point in his career, he doesn't want what Glover has for him. And Glover has a savage fucking ass whooping, the kind of ass whooping where your fucking unconscious heap of a body's dropped in a fucking alleyway dumpster. I mean, Rampage, he's fucking getting taken out, and Glover's just going to stomp a mud hole in that ass. I think I might give it a second round TKO. Give Rampage just a little bit of time. He may survive the first round.
Well, I really, really don't know what to say. I don't think Rampage has ever fought in a very long time somebody this hungry. Glover's just ready to come out there and impress the fans. And Rampage these days, he's looking stale. As you saw him playing the PSP, he's looking uninterested. I don't know whether he's going to go to Bellator. I think he's given up on fighting altogether. I don't think he cares about anything. He's probably going to go back to making movies and whatever, if anybody will hire him after the beatdown he's going to get, especially coming off 3 back-to-back losses? Whatever, I just don't see him. I don't see this being interesting. I see Glover Teixeira ripping him apart and making him look like a fool. But, I've been wrong before, so maybe Rampage might land that bomb, but I don't see him getting a chance. I see him getting hurt, reminded what hungry people feel like and what the pride of trying to get that belt feels like. I just think all of Rampage's dreams are just going to get crushed.
This is a strange matchup. I mean, I think most of us now want to just see Rampage gone. I mean, in his prime, he was brilliant. In his pride days when he first moved to UFC, the howl, the chain, it was brilliant. But there's Rampage that's turned into this guy that constantly whinges about everything. I don't get paid enough money. You're not treating me properly. He's trying to wrestle me. Oh, Jesus, it's just excuse after excuse after excuse. I just want to see him gone. I hope he takes a beating and just get rid of him. What I think will happen is I think Glover will beat him for 3 rounds. I don't think he'll put Rampage away because Rampage is tough to finish. The fight will stay standing. Rampage is dead now that he's lost all respect for Glover because Glover said he's going to box, but he's been training wrestling. I think it will be a stand-up fight, and I do think Glover will get the win. I think he'll win a pretty dominating unanimous decision. But it's worth noting that Maldonado caught Glover and had Glover in a little bit of trouble, and Rampage has the power to put people in trouble. So I just hope Glover keeps himself covered up and doesn't just take... if he lands that one overhand right in the right place, then I think Glover could be in trouble. But I see Glover winning the 3-round decision.
Man, I am perplexed on this fight now. I mean, I'm pretty sure if it's a straight-up fight, Quentin Jackson is a dead man. Straight-up fight, Glover is going to kill this man. The referee should probably stop the fight right now if it's going to be a real fight, if that's what they've both agreed to and are intending on having a real fight. But what's confusing to me is my hero, the people's champion, Chael Sonnen himself, is actually predicting that Rampage will get a lucky knockout here. So to me, that was very surprising to hear out of Chael Sonnen's mouth. So I started asking myself, man, does he know something I don't? So if if Rampage does manage to catch Glover and knock him out, I'm gonna of course call a dive. So you don't put it past the UFC to get Glover to take a dive just to make Rampage feel good and stay in the organization. Rampage doesn't even have to know it's a work and that Glover's taking a dive for this to happen. So I'm confused, but I'm still getting Rampage is getting stomped in my opinion. Word
on the street. The final fight, the main event. You got the flyweight title. Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson taking on John the Magician Dodson. Mighty Mouse coming off of 2 wins, both against top flyweights. 2 very impressive wins against both Ian McCall, Joseph Benavidez. The tough 14 champion out of Jackson's John the Magician Dodson has been on a tear himself after defeating TJ Dillashaw in the tough 14 finale, defeating Jim Elliott and Jussier Da Silva this past October. Looking at the fight, you're finally going to see Demetrius Johnson in the favorite role. I believe he was underdogs against both McCall and Benavidez. Looked really good against McCall and Benavidez, but Dodson, I don't know, Dodson is a different kind of animal than McCall or Benavidez was, where McCall and Benavidez both had a big strength advantages over Johnson. Dodson doesn't necessarily have that crazy strength advantage, but instead is going to be able to keep up with him speed-wise. I don't think he's as fast as Demetrius Johnson. I think Demetrius Johnson is the fastest fighter in the UFC. He at least is going to be able to keep up with Johnson. Dodson, that is other than in a way that fighters haven't really been able to. That wrestling background just does not seem to work against Demetrius Johnson. Johnson took Joseph Benavidez down 5 times in their title fight, where he defended all 7 attempts from the alpha male product Joseph Benavidez. I think this is going to be very close. I think it's going to go to a decision, and we know how judges' scorecards can be all over the place with this current state of judging. Dodson is more powerful, more of an innovative striker, but Johnson does have a tendency to outland everyone because of his speed. But I think because his speed isn't going to be as much of it as an advantage against his previous foes, Mighty Mouse could run into little rough spurts trying to figure out how to fight John Dodson, who is a huge underdog in Vegas. I actually think Dodson edges Demetrius Johnson in a split decision to become the new flyweight champion. What do you guys think?
Right, first of all, I'm going to say you got more balls than the UFC, because they didn't actually mention that the fight was a flyweight fight. If you watched the advert, did you see it on the weekend?
No, I didn't.
They mentioned it on the press conference as well. They're promoting it as a World Championship fight, not as the Flyweight Championship.
Wow.
So congratulations, Jake. The MMA podcast has got more balls than the UFC.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting to the fight itself, man, I would love to see Dodson take the title. That'd be fantastic. However, I think the only things Dodson's got in terms of skills or whatever that he has better than Demetrius Johnson. I think he's more confident and he's more of a cocky fighter. He has confidence in his ability, which isn't exactly a skill or an ability, but it is something he's got. The other thing he has got is power. He can finish fights, whereas Demetrius Johnson hasn't really... Has he put anyone away? I don't know.
I'm trying to think. I can't think of anyone he's finished, at least recently.
So yeah, I think that's the difference, is that Dodson for a flyweight can actually finish fights, whereas Johnson, it could very well end up as a 5-round fight or whatever.
He guillotined Damasio Page, but 5 of his other 6 victories were all decisions in his Zuffa fights.
There we are. That says what I confirmed. However, I do think that Demetrius Johnson will walk away still champion, but I'd love to see Dodson get a victory. It'd just be so happy. It'd look so good with him smiling, holding the belt. It'd be perfect, but I just don't see it happening.
I think it's going to be a great fight. I love Jake's prediction, and like Jay said, I mean, you can't not like Dodson, but I mean, I like Demetrius Johnson as well. I think he comes across as very likeable. I think Dodson definitely has the power to get the knockout, but I think if Johnson can do what he did against Benavidez for 5 rounds, I think he can do it against Dodson. I really do. I think this division's Johnson's division now. He's going to get in there. He's going to be in and out. He's striking. He's wrestling. I think it's going to be an exciting fight, but I just see it being a Johnson decision. I don't know what the score will be, but I think it'll be a unanimous decision for Johnson.
Yep, I got to go with Mighty Mouse Johnson on this one. He's just too smart for Dodson. He's just too smart, too quick. That helps, but I mean, I think even without the speed advantage, he's gonna beat Dodson 7 times out of 10, in my opinion. Dodson, his only chance is to, of course, land a huge one, hurt Mighty Mouse. But when was the last time you saw Mighty Mouse hurt? I haven't seen it, not that I can remember. So yeah, I've got to say the champ is going to defend his title, in my opinion. Of course, it'll be a fucking decision. These Jackson's MMA fighters, they're not my personal favorite, but I have to recognize that the better man appears to be Mighty Mouse. He's got the advantages here. It's Dodson that's going to have to take it to him. I don't think he catches him. Demetrius is just going to fucking shuck and jive the whole fucking time. Mighty Mouse.
Yeah, I got Mighty Mouse by UD as well. I think he is just technically better than John Dodson. John Dodson does look to have a little more power. He's shown some good finishes in his fights in the UFC, both at bantamweight and flyweight. But I just think Mighty Mouse, he's just a better tactician, and he really is super quick. John Dodson, as quick as he is, I think Mighty Mouse is just a little bit quicker. I think his technical striking is just a little bit better. His wrestling is on point. Definitely, I think this is Mighty Mouse's fight. It can get kind of hairy though with the judges' decisions with the flyweights, just because they're moving at 120 miles an hour. So sometimes some of the action can get lost in the furious movement. But I think Mighty Mouse, he's just better all the way around. It'll be clear cut after this main event is over who the winner is. And that's going to be Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson.
Damn, I don't have anyone on the John Dodson train with me, but my gut is saying Mighty Mouse, but I'm rooting for Dodson. I was sort of looking at the ways that Dodson could beat Johnson, and I saw just the fact that McCall and Benavidez are such different fighters than Dodson. Maybe that'll be a way, but to be honest, even though I'm going with Dodson, my gut's going in the direction of Mighty Mouse, like the rest of you guys. And I guess that sort of wraps it up. Let's shout out the Bellator results real quick that have happened so far. Real quick, the MMA Roundtable. We do this every Thursday night from 7 to 9 Eastern, 4 to 6 Pacific, 12 to 2 a.m. in the UK. Your quick Bellator 86 prelim results. Ray, if you don't want to know the results, just put your fingers in your ears for one quick second. You had Cortez Coleman defeating Matt Jones via unanimous decision. Damon Jackson defeating Zach Church at lightweight via second-round submission. Raul Amaya via first-round TKO. And Brent Weidman defeating Marius Zaromskis by unanimous decision. Those last two fights being the quarterfinals in that welterweight tournament. The main card, which starts in about 45 minutes, is going to have Saunders Lima, King Mo, Ben Askren. Pretty stacked. Listen to the MMA Roundtable live every Thursday night. We tweet out the links on our Twitters, MMA Mental and the MMA Podcast. Ray, you want to plug MMA Mental real quick? Oh, sorry. I told him to plug his ears because he didn't want to hear any of the Bellator results. Ray, you back? Oh, man.
Sorry.
Yeah. You want to...
I just want to say... Yeah, go on, I'm interrupting you. You carry on, JK. So I was just going to say, you want to plug in MMA Mental real quick? Yeah, if any of you get a chance, I've just seen the walkout T-shirt for our fighter at UCMMA, Jason the Assassin Radcliffe, with our logo on. It's fantastic. So for my co-host, go and check out my Facebook. It's just right there, right at the top of the T-shirt, and that's going to be live on Primetime TV and YouTube as well, which I'm absolutely over the moon. But seeing it on the T-shirt, it just makes it more real. It just looks amazing. So I'm buzzing at the minute. But yeah, check out MMA Mental for latest news. Check out our podcast. We had 5 brilliant guests on this week. Let me just get the guests up. We spoke to Jason Radcliffe, our new best friend. He's coming up soon. He's quite close to a title shot at UCMMA, so he's definitely one to look out for. We spoke to the Sinclair brothers, Mick, and the more well-known Rob C4 Sinclair. We had one of our friends on, actually a roommate of Eric Coker we've talked about tonight, Mike Biggie Rhodes. He's a Ruthless sport fighter. We've spoken to him a few times. He's definitely one to look out for. And we continue our partnership with Extreme Fighting Championship. We spoke to Angela Mangana, 12-5 in the women's division. Very good fighter, and she's signed with them and she's got a fight coming up soon. So yeah, definitely check us out.
Ramsey's word on the street, shout out.
Yes, it's real simple. If you want the word on the street about the UFC, follow me on Twitter. The Ant Jimmy Show. That's it. Thank you.
That's it. And you can follow us, the MMA Podcast. We've been doing every Wednesday, 9 to 11 Eastern, 6 to 8 Pacific. Not sure if we're going to stick with that going forward, but stay tuned and we'll let you know. You always can follow us on YouTube, on iTunes. Just search the MMA Podcast. Even better yet, go to themmapodcast.com. We got tabs at the top of the site for you to follow us on iTunes, YouTube, Twitter. Send us an email, whatever the fuck you crazy motherfuckers want to do. Shout out to our buddies at MMA Mental, Ray, Jay, Patrick. You guys are some beasts. Word on the street, we got Ramsey's. Follow that crazy motherfucker on Twitter at The Ant Jimmy Show. Thanks for tuning in. Until next week, for the MMA Roundtable, this is Jake. Thanks for tuning in. We gone.
We gone.